The crystal glasses clinked as my sister Emma raised her champagne, her diamond bracelet catching the light. To another record year at Hammond Industries, she announced proudly. Our family erupted in cheers, their voices echoing through the marble-floored dining room of my parents' mansion. I sat quietly, nursing my coffee, watching the scene unfold like a well-rehearsed play. Every year, the family reunion doubled as a celebration of Hammond Industries' success. The company my grandfather built, the one my father now ran, and the one my sister was being groomed to inherit. Speaking of success, Emma turned to me, her smile sharp as a paper cut. "How's the job hunt going, Olivia?" Still temping at that startup. The room grew quiet. All eyes turned to me. My father's disappointed frown, my mother's practiced look of concern, my uncle's barely concealed smirk. I could feel their judgment like a physical weight. "I'm doing fine," I replied evenly, taking another sip of coffee. "Fine?" Emma laughed. "You're 32, living in a rented apartment, while the rest of us," she gestured around the room at our successful family members. "Even cousin David just made you your partner at his law firm." I didn't remind them that I'd chosen to leave Hammond Industries 3 years ago. Didn't mention the countless nights I'd spent building something of my own, away from their suffocating expectations and rigid rules. "You know," my father chimed in, swirling his scotch, "there's still a position available in accounts receivable. Entry level, of course, but it's a start." "Thank you," I said quietly, "but I'm good where I am." Emma snorted. "Good. Liv, you can barely afford rent in that shabby neighborhood. When are you going to grow up and accept that you need our help?" I checked my phone discreetly. 9:47 p.m. In less than 12 hours, the billboard on Fifth Avenue would be unveiled. The one announcing Aurora Tech's acquisition of the Riverside complex, Hammond Industries' primary office location. They didn't know that Aurora Tech was my company, built from the ground up after I left their precious family empire. "Remember when you thought you could revolutionize our tech department?" Emma continued, clearly enjoying her audience. "What was it you said? The future is in artificial intelligence and automated systems." Our father laughed. And when we explained that Hammond Industries doesn't chase trendy fads, she stormed out like a teenager. I hadn't stormed out. I'd walked away calmly after they rejected my proposal for the 3rd time, taking my patents and research with me. Patents that were now worth more than their entire tech division. "At least take the accounts position," my mother pleaded. "The family needs to maintain its image. What will people think?" I stood up slowly, smoothing my simple black dress. Valentino, though they assumed it was off the rack. I should head home. Early morning tomorrow. "Oh, right." Emma smirked. "Temp work calls bright and early." As I walked toward the door, my uncle called out, "Don't forget, Olivia. Family is all you've got. Don't throw it away over pride." I turned back one last time, taking in their faces, memorizing this moment. "You're right, Uncle Jack. Family is important. That's why I never forget anything." Emma rolled her eyes. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You'll see tomorrow," I said softly. "Check the news around 9, especially the business section." My father frowned. "What are you talking about?" But I was already walking out, my heels clicking against the marble floor. In my car, a modest Toyota they love to mock, I pulled up the final acquisition papers on my phone. Aurora Tech had just completed its largest purchase to date, the entire Riverside complex, including all 16 floors currently leased to Hammond Industries. Their lease was up for renewal next month. And I, their new landlord, had other plans for the space. I drove home to my shabby apartment, actually the penthouse of a building I owned under a separate LLC. Tomorrow, everything would change. Not because I wanted revenge, but because sometimes the only way to make people see you is to become impossible to ignore. As I parked in my private garage, my phone buzzed. A text from my assistant. Billboard installation complete. All set for tomorrow's unveiling. I smiled, remembering Emma's words from earlier. Poor little sister, still living paycheck to paycheck. If only they knew that while they were laughing, I was building an empire that would make Hammond Industries look like a corner store. Tomorrow, they wouldn't be laughing anymore. They'd be calling their lawyers. I woke up early the next morning, not from anxiety, but from a calm sense of anticipation. My phone was already buzzing with notifications, emails from board members, text messages from my executive team, and several missed calls from the PR department. Today wasn't just about the billboard or the building. It was about 3 years of careful planning finally coming to fruition. As I made my morning coffee in my state-of-the-art kitchen, I thought back to the day I left Hammond Industries. I had presented my AI development proposal one last time, complete with market projections and potential revenue streams. My father had barely glanced at it. "Olivia," he'd said, sighing like I was still a child bringing him a crayon drawing. "Hammond Industries has thrived for 40 years because we stick to what works. We're not going to risk our reputation on your experiments." Emma had been there too, sitting in her pristine corner office, the one that should have been mine, as the eldest daughter. "Face it, Liv," she'd smirked. "You're not cut out for this world. Some people are leaders, others are, well, you know." I'd walked out that day with nothing but my research and my determination. What they didn't know was that I'd already secured private funding from venture capitalists who actually understood the potential of AI integration in corporate systems. 3 patents, and 2 years later, Aurora Tech was born. My phone buzzed again. A message from Marcus, my head of operations. "News vans already setting up on 5th Avenue. You should see the crowd." I walked to my floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over the city I'd quietly been conquering piece by piece. The morning sun was just hitting the skyscrapers, including the Hammond Industries building, my building now. Another text came through, this time from my sister. "What the hell did you mean about checking the news? Are you trying to be dramatic?" I didn't respond. Instead, I dressed carefully in a tailored white Alexander McQueen suit. No more hiding behind modest clothes. Today, I would look the part of who I truly was. At 8:45 a.m., my private elevator opened directly into my underground garage where James, my driver, waited beside a Rolls-Royce Ghost, a far cry from the Toyota my family had seen last night. "Good morning, Ms. Hammond," he said, opening the door. "Big day." "Indeed it is, James." I settled into the leather seats, opening my laptop to review the press release one last time. Aurora Tech acquires Riverside Complex in historic $2.8 billion deal. CEO Olivia Hammond announces major expansion. As we drove toward 5th Avenue, my phone started ringing. Emma again, then my father, then Uncle Jack. I let them all go to voicemail. At 8:57 a.m., we pulled up to the crowd gathered around the covered billboard. News reporters were already doing their morning segments, speculating about the mysterious Aurora Tech and its reclusive CEO. I stepped out of the car, and the whispers started immediately. Most had never seen me before. I'd kept my identity private until now, letting my work speak for itself. The clicking of cameras intensified as I walked toward the small stage that had been set up. At exactly 9:00 a.m., my phone exploded with notifications. The press release had just gone live across all major business networks. "Ms. Hammond," reporters called out, "is it true you're the founder of Aurora Tech? Are you related to the Hammond Industries family? What are your plans for the Riverside complex?" Before I could respond, a commotion broke out at the edge of the crowd. I turned to see my father pushing through, his face red with fury, Emma right behind him. They froze when they saw me on stage, their expressions shifting from anger to disbelief. I stepped up to the microphone, my voice carrying clearly across the now silent crowd. "Good morning," I said, my eyes meeting my father's shocked stare. "I'm Olivia Hammond, CEO of Aurora Tech. And yes, those Hammond Industries billboards you've seen for 40 years. I nodded to my team, and the cover dropped, revealing Aurora Tech's sleek logo and my face 40 feet high above Fifth Avenue. They're about to change. The cameras went wild. Emma's face had gone pale. And my father, for the first time in my life, looked at me with something other than disappointment. He looked afraid. The chaos that followed the billboard unveiling was exactly what I had anticipated. As camera flashes lit up the morning air, I maintained my composure, standing tall at the podium while my family struggled to process what was happening. "Aurora Tech," I continued, my voice carrying over the murmurs, "has not only acquired the Riverside complex, but will be implementing our AI-driven smart building technology across all 60 floors. I paused, letting my next words land deliberately. "Current tenants will be notified of lease updates within the next 24 hours. My father pushed forward, his face a storm of emotions. "Olivia," he hissed, trying to keep his voice down despite his obvious rage. "What do you think you're doing?" I ignored him, continuing my prepared statement. "This acquisition marks the beginning of Aurora Tech's expansion into commercial real estate automation, a vision that some said was impossible." My eyes met Emma's, who was frantically typing on her phone. Sometimes the future arrives sooner than expected. As I stepped away from the podium, reporters shouted questions. "Ms. Hammond, did your family know about Aurora Tech? Was this acquisition a hostile takeover? Will Hammond Industries be evicted from the complex?" My PR team handled the press while I walked calmly toward my waiting car. My father grabbed my arm, his grip tight, but trembling. "You can't do this," he growled. "That building has been Hammond Industries' headquarters for 30 years. I gently removed his hand. "Actually, I can. Your lease expires in exactly 28 days. Check your contract." Emma rushed up, her designer heels clicking frantically on the pavement. "This is insane. You're trying to destroy everything our family built." "No," I replied softly. "I'm showing you everything you refuse to build." I turned to my father. "Remember that AI proposal you dismissed? The one you called a trendy fad? Aurora Tech's market valuation hit $12 billion last quarter. That's 3 times Hammond Industries' worth." His face went ashen. "12 billion? The meeting to discuss your lease renewal is at 2 p.m. today," I said, checking my watch. "Don't be late. I have other potential tenants interested in the space." As I slid into my car, Emma banged on the window. "You can't just walk away. We're family." I lowered the window slightly. "Funny. That's exactly what I said 3 years ago when you all laughed me out of the building." I nodded to James. "That will be all." Back at Aurora Tech's headquarters, a sleek glass tower I'd purchased last year. My executive team was waiting in the conference room. The wall-mounted screens displayed real-time news coverage of the morning's events, along with Hammond Industries' plummeting stock price. Marcus, my COO, handed me a tablet. Their board called an emergency meeting. Apparently, your father never told them about your AI proposal. Now they're questioning his judgment. I wasn't surprised. My father had always protected Emma, grooming her for leadership while dismissing my innovations. Now his bias would cost him. There's more, Sarah, my head of legal, added. We've received calls from 3 other major tech firms. They want to discuss partnerships now that Aurora's gone public. I sat at the head of the table, remembering all the times my family had made me feel small for daring to think differently. What's the status on Project Phoenix? Marcus grinned. Ready to launch whenever you give the word. It'll make today's news look like a warm-up. Project Phoenix was what I'd been building toward all along. The Riverside complex was just the beginning. Aurora Tech had spent the last year quietly acquiring key properties and patents across the country. Properties that Hammond Industries depended on without even knowing it. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Please, Olivia. Let's talk about this. Your father's blood pressure. I set the phone aside. They'd had 3 years to talk. 3 years to acknowledge that their oldest daughter might actually know what she was doing. Instead, they'd chosen mockery and exclusion. Miss Hammond, my assistant, called from the door. Your father and sister are in the lobby with their lawyers. They're demanding to see you. I smiled, pressing a button that activated the smart glass walls, turning them from transparent to opaque. Let them wait. We have a lease renewal meeting to prepare for. Marcus cleared his throat. About that meeting, are you really planning to evict them? No, I said, pulling up a document on my tablet. I'm planning to teach them the difference between ownership and control. I projected the document onto the main screen. A detailed proposal for Hammond Industries' digital transformation, complete with AI integration and automated systems. They can keep their offices, but only if they're willing to evolve. And if they refuse? Sarah asked. I thought of Emma's smirk at last night's reunion, of my father's dismissive waves, of all the family dinners where I was the cautionary tale. Then they'll learn what it feels like to be on the outside looking in. The hours before the 2 p.m. meeting crawled by with calculated precision. I reviewed financial reports, answered urgent emails, and watched as speculation about Aurora Tech dominated every business channel. The story was irresistible. Daughter spurned by family business becomes tech billionaire, buys family's headquarters. At 1:45 p.m., my assistant buzzed in. Your father's legal team has arrived. They're bringing Howard Matthews from Sterling and Reed. I almost laughed. Howard Matthews, the same lawyer who'd helped my father restructure Hammond Industries to ensure Emma's path to leadership while minimizing my role. He probably drafted the very documents that had pushed me out. Send them to conference room A, I replied. And Sarah? Make sure the AI demonstration is ready. I stood in my private bathroom, checking my reflection. The woman in the mirror wasn't the same person they'd mocked at last night's reunion. Gone was the careful attempt to blend in. Instead, I saw someone who had nothing left to prove and everything to show. At exactly 2 p.m., I walked into the conference room. The tension was palpable. My father sat at one end of the table, his face tight with controlled anger. Emma beside him, her usual confidence replaced by nervous energy. Howard Matthews and 2 other lawyers flanked them like expensive guards. Thank you for coming, I said, taking my seat. Sarah and Marcus sat on either side of me, tablets ready. Shall we begin? Howard Matthews cleared his throat. Ms. Hammond, before we proceed, your father would like to speak. I gestured gracefully. Of course. My father leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. Whatever game you're playing, Olivia, it ends now. You've made your point. You're successful. Congratulations. But this vindictive display, this isn't how family behaves. Interesting, I replied, opening my laptop. Let's talk about how family behaves. Sarah, would you pull up the Hammond Industries board minutes from March 2020? Sarah projected the document onto the wall screen. There, in crisp black and white, was the transcript of the meeting where my AI proposal had been discussed. After I'd left the room, Emma's voice. We can't let her implement this. If it succeeds, she'll have too much control. My father agreed. The board votes to reject the proposal and begin transitioning Olivia to a non-essential role. The color drained from Emma's face. How did you get those minutes? I have an excellent legal team, I replied smoothly. But let's focus on the present. Your lease expires in 28 days. I have a proposal that could benefit both companies. Howard Matthews jumped in. Any attempt to evict Hammond Industries would be met with immediate legal action. The publicity alone would be fascinating, I cut in, especially when the press learns how Hammond Industries systematically suppressed innovative technology to maintain family control. I turned to my father. But I'm not here to destroy what grandfather built. I'm here to save it. Marcus distributed tablets to everyone at the table. What you're looking at, he explained, is a comprehensive integration proposal. Aurora Tech's AI systems would modernize Hammond Industries' entire operation. Projected efficiency increase, 47%. Cost reduction, 35%. The catch, Emma said, scrolling through the document. What's the catch? Aurora Tech would manage all technological implementation, I replied. And I would join Hammond Industries board, not as your employee, but as a major technology partner. My father's hand tightened on the tablet. And if we refuse? I stood, walking to the window that overlooked the city. Then you have 28 days to relocate 40 years of business operations. Your choice. This is blackmail, Emma snapped. No, I turned back to face them. This is business. The same business you taught me, remember? Some people are leaders, others are, well, you know. Howard Matthews was whispering urgently to my father, who looked like he'd aged 10 years in the last hour. Emma was still scrolling through the proposal, her expression shifting from anger to something else, recognition. The AI system, she said slowly. This is what you tried to show us 3 years ago, isn't it? But it's more advanced now. Much more, I confirmed. Aurora Tech holds 17 patents in artificial intelligence and automated systems. We're not just a real estate company. We're the future you refuse to see. My father stood abruptly. We need time to review this with our board. You have until 5 p.m. tomorrow, I replied. After that, I start entertaining other offers for the space. As they gathered their things, Emma lingered behind. Why didn't you tell us? About Aurora Tech? About everything? I looked at my sister, really looked at her, seeing not the favorite child who had tormented me, but someone who might finally understand what she'd missed. Would you have believed me? I asked softly. Or would it have been another family dinner joke? She had no answer for that. After they left, Marcus turned to me. Think they'll accept? I walked back to my desk, picking up a framed photo I kept hidden in the drawer. my grandfather on the day he founded Hammond Industries, young and full of dreams about building something that would last. They don't have a choice, I replied, and that's exactly what they need to understand. The next 24 hours unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony. Hammond Industries stock had dropped 18% by closing bell, while Aurora Tech's valuations soared. My phone was flooded with messages from relatives who had suddenly remembered my existence, cousins offering congratulations, aunts claiming they'd always believed in me, uncles wanting to discuss investment opportunities. I ignored them all. At my penthouse that evening, I sat on my terrace overlooking the city lights, a glass of wine in hand. My mother had tried to visit earlier, bringing my favorite childhood dessert like it could sweeten the bitter pills I'd forced them to swallow. I just don't understand, she'd said, standing in my marble foyer, taking in the obvious wealth she'd never noticed before. Why did you pretend to struggle? Why let us think you were less? Because, I'd replied, not inviting her further in, you needed to show me who you really were when you thought I had nothing. Now, as midnight approached, my phone lit up with a text from Emma. Can we talk? Just us. Please. I considered ignoring it, but something in me, maybe the last remnant of the sister I used to be, made me reply. The cafe on 73rd, 7 a.m. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I kept thinking about the day grandfather had handed over control to my father, how proud he'd been, how he'd always told us that Hammond Industries wasn't just a company, it was a legacy. Take care of it, he'd said, and take care of each other. We'd failed on both counts. The cafe was empty when I arrived, except for Emma sitting in a corner booth. No designer bag, no power suit, just jeans, and a sweater like when we were young. She looked tired, human. You look different, she said as I sat down. I look like myself, I corrected. You're just seeing me for the first time. She stared into her coffee. The board met until midnight. They want to accept your proposal. Dad fought it, but after they saw the projected numbers, she looked up at me. You're not just successful, are you? You're brilliant. I always was, I said quietly. You all just decided I wasn't. Because you were different, she admitted. You saw things we couldn't. It scared Dad. It scared me. She pulled out her phone, showing me an article about Aurora Tech's rise. 17 patents? A revolutionary AI system. While we were mocking you at family dinners, you were building an empire. Now you know how it feels, I said, to discover your assumptions about someone were completely wrong. Tears filled her eyes. I was awful to you. We all were. And you just took it. Planned. Built. Why? I leaned back, remembering all the nights I'd worked alone, all the small victories I couldn't share, all the times I'd wanted to prove them wrong but waited until the proof was undeniable. Because success isn't about proving people wrong, I said finally. It's about proving yourself right. The board meets at 10, she said. They're going to accept your proposal, but they want changes. They want you more involved, not just as a technology partner. They want, she hesitated. What? They want you to co-lead Hammond Industries with me. Dad stepping down. I felt a strange tightness in my chest. And how do you feel about that? Terrified, she admitted, but also relieved. You were always better at seeing the future. I was just better at playing the game Dad created. My phone buzzed, a reminder about the 5 p.m. deadline. The game's changed, I said, standing. The question is, Are you ready to learn new rules? She stood too, squaring her shoulders. Teach me. Not as my superior, but as my sister. Please? I studied her face, searching for the mocking smirk, the hidden agenda, but found only sincerity and something else. Respect. The board meeting's in 2 hours, I said. Come to my office first. There's something you need to see. In my office, I showed her Project Phoenix, Aurora Tech's complete vision for the future of corporate automation. Her eyes widened as she understood the scale of what I'd built. This isn't just about Hammond Industries, is it? She whispered. You're changing everything. No, I corrected her. We are, if you're ready. She looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in years. I am. And Liv, I'm sorry. For everything. I nodded, turning to the window. Below, workers were installing the new Aurora Tech logo on what had been Hammond Industries' building for 4 decades. Change wasn't always comfortable, but it was always necessary. The past is done, I said. Let's build something new, together. As we walked into the board meeting 2 hours later, side by side instead of in competition, I thought about last night's family reunion. How they laughed at my supposed failures. How they dismissed my potential. But success, real success, isn't about revenge. It's about evolution. About becoming so undeniably excellent that those who doubted you have no choice but to see what they missed. And sometimes, if you're patient enough, smart enough, and strong enough, you don't just prove them wrong. You help them become better.
The phone buzzed on my desk for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. It was Mom again. I let it ring, watching it move across my papers like a bug with too much energy. My stomach was already in knots. When it finally stopped, I slowly counted to 10 before checking the voicemail. Jacqueline, sweetheart, why aren't you answering? It's important. Call me back right away. I'm Jacqueline and I'm 37 years old. Somehow, I've become my family's personal bank. Not because I wanted to, but because years of guilt, pressure, and feeling responsible have pushed me into this role. All because I'm the daughter who's doing well. The phone buzzed again. This time, I picked up. Finally, Mom said, her voice cutting through the speaker. I've been trying to reach you all morning. I was in a meeting, Mom. What's going on? Well, nothing's really wrong, she said, her voice turning sweet in that fake way it always did before asking for money. It's just a small favor. The mortgage is due next week, and your dad's hours got cut again. I pressed my fingers to my forehead. Mom, I paid your mortgage 2 months ago. You said that was the last time. But sweetheart, we're family. Family helps each other. And you're doing great with your business. A few thousand won't hurt you. A few thousand, like the money I gave last month for Lauren's car. Or the time before that for Dad's hospital bills. And the many, many other times I've emptied my savings to help them. I can't keep doing this, I said softly. What did you say? I said I can't. Oh. Before I forget, she cut in. Lauren needs some new furniture for her apartment. Nothing big, just a living room set. I told her you'd help. The pen in my hand snapped in two. Blue ink spread over my fingers like a bruise. You told her what? She saw that nice leather sofa in your office. I said you'd probably be happy to help her get something like it. She's your sister, after all. I looked at the sofa. My heart sank. I had saved for months to buy something that showed how hard I'd worked. But now my mom wanted to turn it into just another thing I owed the family. No, the word came out before I could stop it. Excuse me, she asked. No, Mom. I can't keep doing this. I'm not an A-team. The phone line went quiet. When she finally spoke, her voice had that cold, sharp tone I remembered from when I was a kid. After everything we've done for you, this is how you treat us? By being selfish. Selfish. I let out a laugh, but it sounded more like a cry. I've given you over $70,000 just in the past year. I've put off buying a house, delayed starting a family, and put my whole life on hold just to help everyone else. How is that selfish? We're your family, she shouted. Family takes care of each other. When has anyone ever taken care of me? I asked. The question sat heavy in the air. When's the last time someone asked how I was doing? If I needed help? If I was happy? Oh, so now you're not happy? With your fancy office and expensive furniture? Some people would love to have your life. Grateful? I stood up and started pacing. I built this business from nothing. While you and Dad were sending Lauren money for her third try at college, I was working 2 jobs and eating ramen just to survive. I worked hard for all of this. And now you act like it's yours to hand out? How dare you?
No, Mom.
How dare you? I'm done. No more money. No more guilt. No more treating me like a walking wallet. You'll regret this, she said, her voice like ice. When your father and I have nowhere to go, when Lauren can't pay her bills, you'll wish you hadn't been so heartless. I looked at my ink-stained fingers, the broken pen on my desk, and everything around me. These things were meant to show success, but they had turned into chains. The only thing I regret is not saying no sooner. She hung up. My phone lit up right away. It was Lauren. How could you do this to Mom? You're so selfish. I thought I could count on you. I blocked them both. My hands were shaking, but my mind felt clear for the first time in years. Then I called my best friend, Helen. Hey, I said when she picked up. Remember when you told me I needed to set boundaries? I think I just burned them all down. She laughed. Girl, it's about time. Want to get coffee and talk about it? For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. Yes, I said, smiling. Yes, I really do. You should have seen her face when I finally said no. I added, stirring my latte as Helen listened from across the table. It felt like I had done something terribly wrong. My mistake? Standing up for myself. How dare you? Helen joked, rolling her eyes. The cafe was busy with the afternoon crowd, but in our corner booth, I felt safe enough to relax. Helen had been my closest friend since law school, where we bonded over instant noodles and too much homework. They won't stop messaging me, I said, showing her my phone. Mom sent 10 texts saying I'm tearing the family apart, and Lauren is threatening to tell everyone I'm a terrible sister. Let them, Helen said, leaning forward with that serious lawyer look on her face. You know what this is? It's called extinction burst behavior. When people lose their benefits, they panic and push harder until they finally give up. My phone buzzed again. This time it was from my dad. Jacqueline, please call your mother. She's very upset. We really need your help this month. My hands started to shake. Helen reached out and took the phone from me. Enough, she said. We're setting up boundaries right now. What are you doing? I asked as she started typing. Writing an email. Listen. She read aloud. Dear Mom and Dad, I love you, but I will no longer be giving any more money. I gave in the past because I cared, but it's hurting all of us now. I still want a relationship built on love and respect, but money is not part of it anymore. Love, Jacqueline. I can't send that, I said, my voice small. Watch me, she replied and pressed send before I could stop her.
There.
Now, let's deal with your sister. Right then, the cafe door opened, and I froze. Lauren marched in, her face bright red with anger. Of course, she knew where to find me. I had mentioned this cafe in the family group chat last week. How could you, she shouted, making people turn and look. Mom's crying her eyes out. I started to sink into my seat, but Helen lightly kicked my foot under the table. Her eyes said, stand tall. Lauren, I said, keeping my voice calm. This isn't the place. No, this is the perfect place, she snapped. You sit here in your nice clothes, drinking fancy coffee, while our parents are struggling. What kind of daughter are you? Helen started to get up, but I stopped her with a touch on her arm. I had this. I turned to face my sister, using the same confidence I used at work. I'm the kind of daughter who's tired of being used, I said. I've given everything I could until I had nothing left. And now I'm learning how to say no. But the furniture, she said. What about my furniture? Buy your own furniture, Lauren.
Get a job.
Take out a loan. Do what grown-ups do when they need money. I did it. You can too. Her face fell. But I can't. My credit is ruined, and no one's hiring in my field. That's not my problem anymore, I said. The words felt strange to say, but they also felt right. I love you, I said, but I'm not responsible for the choices you make.
Fine, she snapped.
But don't come crying to us when you're all alone with nothing but your money to keep you company. She stormed out of the cafe. As she left, an older woman sitting nearby looked at me and smiled gently. Good for you, dear, she said quietly. I wish I'd had your courage with my own family years ago. My phone buzzed again. This time it was from Mom. The message was different now. How dare you send such a cold email after all we've done for you? Your father and I gave up so much so you could have a good life. And this is how you repay us? By leaving us when we need you the most? You're no daughter of mine. Helen looked at the message over my shoulder and gave a low whistle.
Wow.
That changed fast. They really did make sacrifices for me, I said, feeling guilt rise in my chest. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Stop right there, Helen said, holding my hands. Yes, they did what parents are supposed to do. But you've already paid them back in more ways than one. Now they're just using the past to make you feel bad. That's emotional blackmail. I feel sick. That's normal. Setting boundaries is hard. But you know what's harder? Spending your whole life as everyone's personal bank. Just then another message came in, this time from Dad. Your mother's blood pressure is sky high. If anything happens to her, it'll be your fault. Something inside me changed. You're right, I said, turning off my phone. I'm done letting them control me. If they want to be this way, let's see how they manage without me always giving them money. That's my girl, Helen said, raising her coffee cup. To boundaries and backbone. I lifted my cup too, my hands shaking a little. To freedom. But I had no idea that this was only the start of a much bigger storm. You've got strong numbers, Jacqueline, Johnson said, leaning back in his chair and tapping his pen against my business plan. But you're playing it too safe. You could be one of the top names in the market, not just another small consulting firm. I had gone to Johnson for advice after realizing how much my family stress had slowed down my career. He was one of the city's top business consultants, and his guidance was priceless. What should I do? I asked, trying to ignore another call flashing on my phone. It was from an unknown number, probably Mom again, using someone else's phone. Grow, Johnson said. Make smart partnerships. You've already built a strong base. Now it's time to build something bigger. He slid a business card across the table. Start by talking to Kelly Riley. She's looking for partners in the tech world. This could be your next big step. I almost choked on my water. Kelly Riley? She's my biggest competitor. Exactly, Johnson said. And she'll either become your strongest partner or your biggest problem. You decide. Before I could say anything, my office door flew open. Lauren rushed in, her mascara running down her face. They're taking the house, she cried. Mom and Dad are going to be homeless, and it's all your fault. Johnson raised an eyebrow but stayed quiet. I took a deep breath, remembering what Helen had told me about keeping my boundaries. This is a private business meeting, Lauren. You need to leave.
No.
Not until you fix this. We all know you have the money. I stood up, my voice calm, even though my heart was pounding. Security, please escort my sister out. You're heartless, she yelled, trying to rush at me, but the guard stopped her. You'll regret this. Mom was right. Money has changed you. After she left, Johnson let out a low whistle. Family problems? Something like that, I said, fixing my jacket and trying to stay calm. I'm sorry you had to see that. Don't worry. I've seen worse. But this is why you need to start thinking bigger, he said, tapping the business card. Call Kelly today. 3 hours later, I was sitting in Kelly Riley Modern Office downtown. She looked younger than I expected, maybe in her early 50s, with eyes that felt like they could see everything. Johnson says good things about you, she said, skipping any small talk. Says you've got untapped talent. I'm not sure I agree. Excuse me? Your firm is doing well, yes, she said. But you're playing it safe, like someone afraid to take big risks. She pulled up my company's numbers on her tablet. Or like someone who keeps pouring their profits into a black hole. My face got hot. My financial choices are personal. Not if we're going to be business partners, she said, leaning closer. Let me be honest, I don't care about your family issues. I care about results. And right now, your personal life is stopping you from reaching your full potential. You don't know anything about me. I know you've been supporting your whole family for years, she said calmly. I know you've turned down big chances because you didn't have the funds. And I know you're finally ready to stop living like that. She smiled. Am I wrong? I stared at her, not knowing what to say. Here's my offer, she said. We combine our consulting businesses. You'll lead the whole thing. We'll grow into 4 new cities in the next 19 months. No more playing small. No more holding back. And if I say no? I asked. Then I'll go after your top clients one by one until your company is just a footnote in mine, she said with a shrug. Your choice. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mom, probably full of guilt and blame. I didn't even look at it. I deleted the message. When do we start? I asked.
Kelly's smile grew.
Now that's more like it.
She pulled out a contract.
But first, let's talk numbers. The figures she showed me made my head spin. This wasn't just a good deal, it was huge. It was my chance to build something so big that my family would never be able to guilt me for money again. I have one condition, I said, surprising even myself. I want full control over my department. No interference, no matter what personal drama comes up. Kelly laughed.
Deal.
Welcome to the big leagues, Jacqueline. As I signed the contract, my phone lit up. It was a message from Dad. Your mother is in the hospital. Stress-related panic attack. Hope you're happy. I turned the phone face down and said nothing. For the first time in my life, I was choosing my future over their control. Ready to shake things up? Kelly asked, holding out her hand. I shook it firmly. More than ready. The news of our merger made headlines in the local business world. I was reading an article when my office door slammed open. I jumped. So, this is why you left us? Mom stood in the doorway, holding a newspaper. Too busy making deals with our enemies? I pressed the security button under my desk. How did you even get in here? I told them I was your mother, which I am, though clearly, you've forgotten. She threw the newspaper on my desk. Millions in new money, and you can't even help your own family? My security guard stepped into the room. Ma'am, you need to leave. Don't you dare. Mom screamed. I carried you for 10 months. I gave up everything for you. And now you're having me thrown out like trash? Mrs. Ryan, the guard said gently, please don't make this harder. She grabbed her chest. You're killing me, Jacqueline. The stress, the shame. Is that what you want? For me to die? I kept my voice steady. What I want is for you to leave. Now. As security walked her out, her voice echoed down the hall. My own daughter. My flesh and blood. I was still shaking when Kelly walked in a few minutes later. Interesting scene in the lobby, she said dryly. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Just deal with it. We can't let family drama hurt the business. After she left, my phone rang. It was Lauren. Before you start, I said, answering. I'm not talking about. Mom's in the air, she cut in.
For real this time.
Not just drama. Dad's with her. They're doing tests. My stomach sank. What kind of tests? Heart. The doctor said stress is actually harming her. Are you happy now? That's not fair. You know what's not fair? She snapped. I lost my job last week, Lauren said. The startup I worked for shut down. I can't pay my rent. Mom and Dad are losing their house. And you're out there making millions from some big business deal. I rubbed my forehead. Your money problems aren't my responsibility. Oh, really? Then whose are they? Mom and Dad used their retirement savings to put me through college. They took out another loan on the house to help you start your business. That was their decision, I said firmly. And now you're just letting them suffer? She cried. Mom could be dying, and you're sitting in your nice office pretending we don't exist. I'm not pretending anything. I'm setting boundaries. Boundaries? She laughed bitterly. Is that what rich people call walking away from their family? What happened to you, Jacqueline? You used to care about more than just yourself. Her words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. I do care. But I can't keep solving everyone else's problems. Save that speech for your therapist, she snapped. Just know, if anything happens to Mom, it's on you. Then she hung up. I stared at my phone in silence until Helen called. Your sister's posting about you on Facebook, she said right away. It's bad. I opened my computer and saw the post. It was full of old family photos and a bitter message. My sister made millions today while our mom is in the hospital. Money really changes people. Don't believe her lies about being self-made. She built her success off our family sacrifices and left us behind. The comments were worse. Old friends said they were disappointed. Relatives I hadn't seen in years called me selfish. Even some business contacts were chiming in with concerned messages. This is just a tactic, Helen said. They're trying to shame you into giving in again. But what if they're right? What if I really am being selfish?
Stop, she said gently.
Think about why you made this choice. Remember the panic attacks, the sleepless nights, the fear every time they asked for more money. You're not being selfish, Jacqueline. You're finally taking care of yourself. Just then, my office door opened. It was Dad. He looked older, more tired than I'd ever seen him. I'll call you back, I told Helen and hung up. Dad stood there, hands in his pockets, shoulders low. Your mom is asking for you, he said softly. I know you're done helping with money, but she's still your mother and she's scared. I glanced at the photo on my desk. It was from years ago, before money came between us, before every talk turned into a request. I can't go back to the way things used to be, I said quietly. Nobody's asking you to, he replied with a sigh. But is this really how you want things to end? With Facebook fights, security guards, and hospital visits. His words hung in the air between us, heavy with years of hurt. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Kelly. Meeting with big investors tomorrow. Make sure your family drama is handled by then. I looked at my dad's tired face, then at the newspaper on my desk showing my business success, and at the angry Facebook posts from my family. Something had to change. But what? Your mom is telling people you stole money from the family, Helen said as she paced around my office. 5 clients call me asking if it's true. I looked up from my investor presentation. She's saying what? Check your email. Someone forwarded me what she sent to the whole extended family. It's creative. I opened the email and felt sick. Mom had written a long, fake story claiming I stole Dad's inheritance to start my business. She even added fake promises, made-up deals, and lies about unpaid debts. This is crazy, I whispered. There was never any inheritance. Dad's parents died with nothing. She's desperate, Helen said. And desperate people tell big lies. My phone lit up. It was Kelly. Speaking of desperate, I muttered, then answered. Hey, Kelly. Care to explain why people are calling me about financial fraud? Her voice was ice cold. This merger is barely holding together. It's not true, I said quickly. My mom. I don't care who it is, she cut in. Fix it today. Then she hung up. I pressed my forehead against the cold office window, watching cars and people move below. What am I supposed to do? Sue my own mother for lying? If you have to, Helen said. But first, we need to speak up and stop hiding. They're making up stories, and you're staying silent. A knock at the door interrupted us. Johnson walked in, looking serious. I assume you've seen the emails, he said.
Yes.
About the made-up inheritance theft. I'm dealing with it.
No, he said.
I'm talking about your sister's GoFundMe page. My stomach dropped. Her what? He handed me his tablet. There it was. Help save our family home. Our rich sister won't help us. It had old family photos and a sad story about how I had abandoned Mom and Dad when they needed me most. "It's going viral," Johnson said. "People in the business world are starting to ask questions about your character." This is ridiculous. I stood up, my anger finally boiling over. They're trying to ruin everything I've worked for just because I stopped giving them money. "Actually," Helen said, thinking aloud, "this might work in our favor." "What do you mean?" "You've tried to keep everything private. Meanwhile, they've used your silence to control the story. Maybe it's time to speak up." Johnson nodded. "She's right. That investor meeting tomorrow?
Turn it into a press event.
Announce your new charity." "My what?" "Your foundation," Johnson said. "You'll create one to help families learn about money, how to be financially smart and independent." Helen smiled. "Show everyone that you're not against helping family. You're just done feeding toxic patterns." I looked at both of them. "That's actually a brilliant idea." "It gets better," Helen added. "We invite your family to the event. Let them try their drama in front of reporters and cameras. Let's see how that goes."
My phone buzzed again.
Another message from Lauren. "The GoFundMe is at $180,000. People need to know who you really are." Something inside me went cold.
"Do it," I said.
"Set up the press conference. And make sure every local news outlet gets an invite." The next 48 hours were nonstop. By morning, the foundation paperwork was complete, the press release was ready, and the conference room was set up. I stood at the podium and watched reporters enter one by one. Then I saw them, Mom, Dad, and Lauren, slipping into the back row. Mom wore her best church dress and clutched a handkerchief, clearly playing the victim. "Ready?" Kelly whispered beside me. "Born ready," I replied. I stepped up to the microphone, my voice steady. "Thank you all for being here. Today, I'm proud to announce the launch of the Financial Freedom Foundation, a nonprofit focused on ending cycles of financial dependence within families." Mom's face turned pale. "This cause is very personal to me," I continued. "For years, I watched my own success used against me by the people I loved most. I've been blackmailed, lied about, and accused of stealing just because I decided to say no." The reporters turned to look at my family. "But this isn't about revenge," I said. "It's about healing. The foundation will offer education, support, and counseling for families dealing with financial pressure and control. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do is say no." Lauren stood up, but Dad quickly pulled her back down. "Any questions?" I asked. A reporter raised his hand. "Is it true your family started a GoFundMe, saying you abandoned them?" I smiled. "Why don't you ask them? They're right there." Every camera turned toward the back row. Mom's face fell as reporters swarmed around them. "Well played," Kelly whispered. "The investors are impressed." I watched my family quickly leave the room, chased by reporters. "This isn't about impressing investors anymore," I said. "This is about taking back control of my story." For the first time since all this began, I felt truly strong. Later that day, Helen walked in with her laptop. "The press conference video has over 1 million views," she said, placing the laptop on my desk. "And the comments, people are sharing their own stories. You've started something real." I opened my mouth to respond, but the office phone rang. My receptionist's voice came through, tense. "Jacqueline, your father's here. He says it's urgent." I looked at Helen, who gave me a small nod. "Send him up," I told the receptionist. Dad walked in, looking tired and small. Nothing like the strong, serious man I remembered from my childhood. "We need to talk," he said. "About the GoFundMe? Or Mom's lies about inheritance money?" I asked. He dropped into a chair and sighed. "Your mother, she's not doing well, Jacqueline. The doctors say her blood pressure is very high. She's talking about selling her wedding ring to pay bills." "That's emotional pressure, and you know it," I said. "Maybe," he mumbled, rubbing his face. "But the foreclosure notice is real. We have 29 days. And you came here expecting?" "I don't know," he said, glancing around my office, taking in everything he never had. "Your mother always handled the money. I just worked and gave her my paycheck. I never asked questions." "Well," That ends now, I said firmly. I'm done being the one who fixes everything. But I will help you, if you're willing to help yourself. What does that mean? I pulled out a folder I had prepared for this exact moment. The Foundation's first project includes financial counseling, job support, and debt help. But there are conditions. Like what? Mom has to go to therapy. Both of you have to take financial classes. And the emotional guilt has to stop for good. He looked at the folder in silence. She'll never agree. Then you have a choice, I said. You can stay in her mess, or you can take charge of your own life. His hands shook as he took the folder. And Lauren? She gets the same offer. But no more money games. He nodded slowly. Your mother will see this as turning against her.
No, Dad.
The real betrayal was teaching me that love means handing over money whenever someone asks. He stood up slowly. I'll think about it. After he left, Helen gently squeezed my shoulder. You okay? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Lauren. Dad told us about your offer. You're really making our parents jump through hoops for help? You've changed. I typed back. Yes, I have. I'm not paying for anyone's poor choices anymore. The offer stands if you want real change. Her reply came fast.
Keep your charity.
We don't need your fake help. Helen read over my shoulder. They'll come around. Maybe, I said. But I'm done waiting for their approval. My phone rang again. It was Kelly. The charity gala is set for next month, she said. Every big name in the industry will be there. Make sure your family drama doesn't ruin it. It won't, I promised. Actually, I'm sending them invitations. Are you serious? Trust me. They need to see who they're dealing with now. After I hung up, I smiled. For the first time in a long time, I felt in control. I wrote the invitations carefully. They were formal and professional, with no room for confusion. You are invited to the Financial Freedom Foundation's first gala. You're playing with fire, Helen warned. No, I said. I'm taking back control. They made this public. Let's see how their sad story holds up in front of 100 business leaders. The replies came fast. From Mom. How dare you show off your wealth while we're losing everything? You'll regret this. From Lauren.
Count me in.
I can't wait to show everyone who you really are. From Dad. Is the offer in the folder still open? I forwarded Dad's message to the counselor at the foundation, then turned to Helen. Want to help me pick out a dress for the gala? Something that says successful and unbothered. She grinned. Girl, I thought you'd never ask. As we headed out, I got one last message from Mom. You think you've won? Just wait until the gala. You want to play rough? We'll play rough. Should we be worried? Helen asked. I thought about the security already arranged, the invited press, and the planned live stream.
No.
For the first time, I'm not scared of their threats. Because you're stronger now.
No.
Because I finally understand something. Their power only worked when I let fear control me. And I'm not afraid anymore. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Dad. I signed up for the financial literacy class. Don't tell your mother. I smiled. Maybe there was hope, just not the way I had once imagined. The gala was 3 weeks away. Let them plan whatever they wanted. This time, I'd be ready. The ballroom sparkled with lights and elegance. Powerful guests filled the room. I stood at the entrance in a midnight blue dress, welcoming each person with a calm smile. Security was in place. Cameras were streaming the event to thousands online. Big crowd, Kelly said, joining me. The governor just arrived. Any sign of my family? I asked. Your dad's already inside, she said. Alone. She raised an eyebrow. Should we worry about the others? Before I could answer, a noise came from the front doors. Mom burst in wearing her oldest church dress, Lauren following close behind. There she is. Mom shouted across the ballroom. My rich daughter, who wants to teach us about money while we lose our home. People turned. Phones came out. Cameras rolled. Just as I had expected, I walked toward them calmly.
Mom, Lauren, welcome.
Your table is this way. Don't act polite now. Mom yelled. Not after you embarrassed us in the media. A security guard stepped up. Mrs. Ryan, please lower your voice. Or what? She snapped. You'll throw me out like my daughter threw us out of her life? I saw Dad standing across the room. He looked upset, but he didn't move. That was a good sign. Maybe the counseling was helping. Mom, I said calmly, you have two choices. You can join this event with respect or leave. There is no third option. Lauren pulled out her phone, clearly ready to record what would happen next.
Go ahead, Mom, she said.
Show everyone who she really is. Who I really am. I turned to face the crowd of business leaders and reporters. Let me tell you, I'm someone who gave my family over $70,000 just last year. I paid their mortgage, car bills, and credit cards, all while putting my own dreams on hold. Mom's face turned red. How dare you? I'm someone, I continued, who finally learned that real love doesn't mean letting people use you. That's why I created this foundation, to break the cycle of financial abuse that hurts families. Liar! Mom yelled. She pulled out a stack of papers from her purse. I have proof you stole from us. Security moved forward, but I raised my hand. Let her speak. Everyone should hear this. Mom held up the papers proudly. Bank statements. She took your father's inheritance. The inheritance that never existed. Dad's voice cut through the room. He walked up beside me. Stop, Margaret. There was no inheritance. You know that. Mike, don't you dare. I'm done lying, he said, standing tall. I'm done watching you guilt our daughter. I'm done letting you control me. The room was silent except for the sound of cameras clicking. The foundation helped me open my eyes, Dad said. I've started counseling. I'm taking financial classes. And for the first time in 42 years, I opened a bank account in my own name. Mom's hands trembled. Traitor. You've turned against me too. No, Mom, I said softly. He's choosing healing just like I did. You can too. Healing, Lauren said with a smirk. You call this healing? Abandoning your family? This foundation offers real support, I said, pointing around the room. Counseling, education, job training. But you have to want to change. Change? Mom's voice turned sharp. You want change? How about this? She turned to the audience. My daughter slept her way to the top. Gasps spread across the room. Security moved in, gently but firmly leading her out. Lauren followed, still filming, but her face finally showed a hint of doubt. As they left, Kelly came to my side and lightly touched my arm. That couldn't have gone better if we'd planned it. She was right. Everything had been recorded. Every lie exposed. Every offer of real help made public. Our message was clear. Dad stayed by my side while I returned to hosting. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have stood up to her years ago, Dad said quietly. You're standing up now, I replied. That's what matters. My phone buzzed. A message from Lauren. Mom's crying in the car. Maybe you could send me that job training info? Another buzz. This one from Mom. You'll regret this public shame. Just wait. I showed both messages to Dad. Well, I said, at least one of them is making progress. Your mother won't change, Dad said sadly. But I'm done letting her control things. And I'm proud of you, sweetheart. You've been braver than I ever was. The rest of the evening flew by, speeches, donations, and meeting new people. But the biggest win wasn't the money or the guests. It was the freedom. Later, as I stepped on stage to give my closing speech, I saw Dad in the audience. He sat tall, looking hopeful. Behind him, through the windows, I spotted Mom and Lauren still sitting in the parking lot.
The choice was theirs now.
Just like I had made mine. A cool breeze moved through the courtyard as I unlocked the doors of our new community center. Morning sunlight stretched across the freshly painted walls and new computers inside. Looks amazing in here, Helen said as she followed me in. Hard to believe this used to be your old office. Yeah, I said. Feels right though, turning the place where I used to enable others into a space that teaches independence.
My phone buzzed again.
A message from Lauren. Finished the job training. Got 4 interviews next week. Thanks. She's doing it, I told Helen, showing her the message. That's the third program she's completed. And your mom? Before I could answer, the front door chimed. Dad walked in, looking better than I'd seen him in years. He was here for the group session. He had become one of our strongest counselors, sharing how he went from enabling to taking back control. His divorce from Mom was almost final. He had even moved into his own apartment for the first time in his life. How's Mom handling it? I asked as we walked toward the meeting room. Exactly how you'd expect, he said with a sigh. Still says I abandoned her. But I'm not giving in this time. The room was filling up with people, many with the same lost, tired look I used to see in the mirror. People stuck in toxic cycles, afraid to speak up or walk away. Dad stood at the front of the room and began. Welcome, everyone. Today we're talking about setting boundaries without guilt. Suddenly, the door burst open. Mom stood there, holding the designer handbag I had once bought her, the last expensive gift I ever gave. So this is where you've all been hiding, she said, her voice sharp. Having your little talks about what a horrible mother I am? Mom, I said firmly, this is a private session. You're welcome to schedule your own appointment. Counseling, she scoffed. I don't need counseling. I need my family back, Mom said, turning to the group. Do you know what she did? She left us when we needed her the most. Now she's turned my husband and daughter against me too. One of the older women in the group stood up. Ma'am, she said gently, I used to think like you. I blamed my kids for not helping me, called them selfish when they set boundaries. You know where that got me? Alone. Until this foundation helped me learn that love isn't about money. Mom's face began to fall. But they're all I have. No, Mom, I said softly. We're not all you have. You have you. You have the power to choose. You can choose to get help, to learn how to stand on your own, and to build real relationships, ones that aren't about control or money. I don't know how, she whispered, and for the first time, I heard something real in her voice. Not anger, not blame, just fear. That's why we're here, Dad said, stepping forward. We're not here to judge or shame. We're here to break the cycle. The cycle you created, Mom said, but her voice had no bite. Yes, Dad replied. The cycle I helped create and keep going, but it ends now. I pulled out the same folder I'd offer her months ago. The offer still stands, Mom. Real help, real change, but you have to choose it. She stared at the folder for a long time. The room was completely quiet. Everyone was watching. Finally, with shaking hands, she reached out and took it. I don't know if I can change, she said softly. That's okay, the older woman said kindly. None of us thought we could either, but we're here to support you. Mom slowly sat down in an empty chair, holding the folder tightly like it was something precious. Can I stay for the session? She asked. I looked at Dad. He gave a small nod. Of course, I said. That's what this is for. As Dad continued the group session, my phone buzzed. A message from Kelly. Merger's done. The empire's built. Ready for phase 2? I looked around the room, at Dad sharing his journey, at Mom quietly listening for once, and at the other families trying to break free from toxic financial habits. I typed back. Already started. This is more than business now. Another message came in, this one from Lauren.
Got the job.
First real paycheck in years. I didn't know independence could feel this good. I smiled, thinking about how far I'd come. The fear, the guilt, the freedom, then peace. Across the room, Mom looked at me. She didn't look angry. She didn't look in control. She looked lost. And maybe that was the first real step, being lost before finding a better way forward. I sat down beside her while Dad kept talking. She didn't say a word, but she didn't move away either. It wasn't a perfect ending. Some family patterns take years, maybe even generations, to fully change. But this was a beginning. A real one. A beginning built on honesty, not guilt. On strength, not giving in. And for now, that was enough. Hi, my name is Lily. I recently went through a divorce, and I wanted to share my story. I hope that someone out there who might be facing something similar will feel less alone after reading this. Maybe it will help, or at least give you a little strength or understanding. Let me start from the beginning. When I was just 8 years old, my parents got divorced. My dad was in Army Special Forces, so he was away a lot. He traveled for long periods because of his job, and that put a lot of pressure on my parents' marriage. Over time, they grew apart, and things fell apart between them. After the divorce, my mom married another man. His name was Frank. I moved in with them and lived in their house. At first, everything seemed fine. But after a while, Frank started to show his true nature. He was abusive, both with his words and his actions. What made it even worse was that my mom knew it was happening, but she loved him too much or was too scared to do anything about it. So she acted like nothing was wrong. She ignored the way he treated me and just let it happen. Even though my dad wasn't around much, he still visited when he could. I would spend weekends with him, and during those short visits, he always made me feel special. He treated me like I mattered. But I was afraid to tell him about what was happening at home. I didn't want to make things worse. I stayed quiet about the abuse for a long time. Then something changed. It was near the end of middle school, and I was spending the day at the beach with my dad. I was wearing shorts, and he noticed bruises on my legs. "What's that on your leg?" he asked. I froze for a second and quickly said, "It's nothing. I just got hurt." He looked concerned and said, "That's a really big bruise. How did it happen?" "I don't remember," I whispered. He looked at me closely. "Lily, are you hiding something from me?" I hesitated and then said, "I might have gotten it in gym class." He sighed and said, "You know you can always tell me anything. I might be away a lot, and maybe you're closer to your mom, but my love for you is strong. Nothing will change that." That's when I broke down. "Dad, I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. Frank, he's mean. He hits me. Not always, but sometimes. I know I mess up too. Like one day, I left the door open and his dog ran away. He hit me with his belt." My dad's face changed instantly. "And your mom? Where was she?" "She knows. She just looks away and pretends it's not happening." He held my hand and said, "This stops now. You're coming with me. You're going to live with me from now on." That moment changed everything. It was the beginning of a new life for me. "I'm going to have a serious talk with your mother. This stops today," my dad said firmly.
He wasn't just saying it.
He meant it. Right after that, my dad took action. He went through the legal process and fought to get full custody of me. It wasn't easy, but he never gave up. In the end, he won and I moved in with him. Living with him was a big change, but it was a much safer and happier place for me. Because of his job, he was sometimes busy or away for work. During those times, I stayed at my aunt's house. She lived nearby and was always kind and caring. My mom did say sorry at first. She tried to patch things up and be in my life again. But when she saw that things weren't going her way, she gave up. She cut me off completely. It was painful, but honestly, I had never felt very close to her. I had always felt more connected to my dad. As I got older, I focused on my studies. I had always dreamed of becoming a doctor. That dream kept me going. I worked hard, studied late nights, and didn't give up. I eventually got into medical school and earned my degree. After years of hard work, I became a licensed heart doctor, a cardiologist.
My dad and my aunt were so proud of me.
They cheered me on at every step and made sure I never felt alone. During that time, they were my whole world. I didn't have a big group of friends. I was never the loud or outgoing type. I mostly kept to myself. But I had two very close friends who stayed by my side. They encouraged me to open up and meet new people, especially once I started working. I slowly began trying to be more social. To my surprise, I got better at it. I began talking more, smiling more, and making new friends. One night, I went to a karaoke bar for my friend's birthday. That wasn't the kind of place I usually went to, but I wanted to celebrate with her. That night changed my life. There was a guy named Adam who needed a partner to sing a duet. My friend saw me looking at him and pushed me to go sing with him. I was nervous, but I agreed. We sang Time of My Life together and had so much fun. We talked after and exchanged phone numbers. Adam and I started dating after that. He worked as a marketing assistant and had a warm and kind personality. My dad met him and liked him right away. Adam gave me love and care I had missed for years. 1 year later, he brought me back to that same karaoke bar and smiled. Lily, I think it's time we start the family we've always talked about. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? I asked. There's something I've been wanting to ask you, he said. When Adam got down on one knee and said, You've brought so much happiness and warmth into my life. I can't imagine spending my life with anyone else. Lily, will you marry me? My heart melted. I said yes right away, tears in my eyes. It felt like a dream. But I'll be honest with you. While many people might feel okay getting married after a year of dating, it felt a little fast for me. I had been through a lot in my past. I had built emotional walls to protect myself, and even though I loved Adam deeply, I was scared. Part of me worried that if I told him I needed more time, he might not wait for me. So I kept those feelings inside and went along with it. We had a small private wedding. Only a few people were invited. I sent an invitation to my mother, hoping she might come, but she didn't show up. That hurt a little because no matter what, she was still my mom. But I didn't let it ruin the day. My dad was there, and that meant the world to me. He held my hand, smiled proudly, and walked me down the aisle. I was so thankful for him. That day, I officially became Adam's wife. A year later, something even more beautiful happened. We had a baby girl. We named her Laura. I still remember holding her for the first time. After my delivery, the hospital room was filled with balloons, flowers, and happy faces. My dad, Adam, and Adam's parents were all there to welcome our little one. It was a moment I'll never forget. Becoming a mother changed everything. I decided to take time off from work to be with Laura during her early months. Those quiet days at home, rocking her to sleep, watching her smile, hearing her first giggles, I cherish all of it. There's nothing more special than bringing a baby into the world. It really shows how precious life is. While I was home, Adam continued to work. Even with his busy schedule, he made time to be a wonderful dad. He played with Laura, sang to her, and even let her put makeup all over his face just to make her laugh. He was patient, funny, and full of love. Watching him with her made me fall in love with him all over again. But as time passed, it was clear that both of us had to return to work. We needed someone to help care for Laura during the day. After looking into different options, we decided to hire a nanny. Laura was a lively little girl, always moving, always curious, and we wanted someone kind and responsible to look after her while we were away. That's how our next chapter began, with a growing family, new responsibilities, and a home full of love. After some time, I found out I was pregnant again. I was happy and excited, thinking we were about to welcome one more baby into our family. But then something unexpected happened. During a regular checkup, the doctor smiled and said, "You're not just having one baby, you're having twins." I was shocked at first, and so was Adam. We hadn't planned for 2 more babies, but that news filled our hearts with joy. We were nervous, of course, but also very happy. What we didn't know at the time was how much things were going to change between us. Once the twins came into our lives, our relationship slowly began to feel different. One thing that always bothered Adam, even though he never said it out loud, was the fact that I earned more money than he did. I'm a doctor, and he works in marketing, so it just happened that way. I tried not to make a big deal about it, but I could feel that it made him uncomfortable. I noticed it more clearly one evening when our friends Catherine and Tyler came over for dinner. I was in my 3rd trimester at that time with a big baby bump, trying to enjoy the evening. During dinner, Tyler asked us, "So, how are you guys feeling about the twins coming soon?" Adam smiled and said, "Oh, we're excited." A little nervous, but mostly excited. Then Catherine asked, "Have you picked out names yet?" I said, "Yes, we've been thinking about some. We want names that are special, but not too unusual." "Any favorites?" Catherine asked again. "We're still deciding," Adam replied. Tyler added, "Family names can be very meaningful." Absolutely, I said. We've also been looking at strollers that work for twins. It's been a bit much, but we'll manage. Tyler laughed and said, I can only imagine. So much stuff to buy for 2 babies. Adam agreed. Tell me about it. Our checklist is getting longer every day. Then Catherine looked at me and asked, Lily, do you miss work? A little, I said. Being a doctor is hard, but helping people always feels rewarding. Tyler joked, Wow, a doctor and a marketing guy. How do you two even find time to make these babies? Catherine laughed and added, Adam, I bet your wife is the one bringing in the big money, huh? That's when Adam looked straight at them and said, without blinking, Actually, I make more money than Lily. I was stunned. I just sat there quietly, not believing what I had heard. Why would he lie like that? It hurt me deeply. Later, after our friends had left, we were doing the dishes together in silence. I wanted to ask him why he said that. My heart felt heavy. I didn't care about the money, but honesty meant everything to me. And in that moment, I realized something in our marriage was starting to crack. After thinking about it for days, I finally decided to talk to Adam. I couldn't keep the feelings inside any longer. Adam, can we talk for a moment? I asked gently. Sure, he said. What's on your mind? I need to ask you something. The other night at dinner, you told Catherine and Tyler that you earn more than me. But that's not true, is it? He paused for a second, then looked down and said, No, it's not true. Adam, why would you lie about something like that? I don't know, Lily, he replied. I guess I was just embarrassed. It felt awkward. Embarrassed? I repeated, confused. I had no idea this topic made you feel that way. I'm not sensitive, he said quickly. I'm a man. I'm supposed to be the one in charge. You've never said anything about this before. What's bothering you now? I just don't want people to think I'm a failure, he said. Like I can't take care of my family. Adam, I said, trying to stay calm. If it works for us, that's what matters. Who cares what anyone else thinks? Yeah, whatever, he muttered under his breath. His response left me feeling hurt. It sounded old-fashioned, even a little unfair. What was so wrong with me earning more if our home was full of love, peace, and support? I had never judged Adam for his salary. To me, being a team and raising a happy family meant more than any paycheck. Still, life was busy. I was in the final stretch of my pregnancy, and my hands were full, both physically and emotionally. I decided not to dwell on that conversation too much. 3 months later, the big day arrived. My pregnancy had been difficult, but in the end, it was worth every moment. I gave birth to 2 beautiful baby boys. As I held them in my arms in the hospital bed, I felt my heart fill with love and joy. We named them Carlo and Keith. Holding them, one in each arm, I couldn't stop smiling. Adam leaned over and kissed my forehead. Our family feels complete, he whispered. Baby, you've made me the happiest man in the world. I love you. It wasn't all me, I said, smiling back. Look at them, Laura. Laura, our daughter, looked over with wide eyes. Baby brothers? She asked in wonder. Yes, sweetheart, I said. Do you want to sit next to Mom? Yes, she exclaimed, climbing up carefully. She looked at her new brothers and softly said, Hello, baby brothers. In that moment, I felt like everything in my life had come together. I wanted to be the best mother I could be. I had not received that kind of love from my own mom, and I was determined to give my children what I never had: love, safety, and a happy home. And that was just the beginning. After a few days at the hospital, I finally brought the babies home. The nursery was all set up. We had painted the walls soft colors, filled the shelves with baby supplies, and made sure everything was ready. Adam and I were excited and nervous. For a while, we both took time off work to adjust to our new life with twins and our daughter Laura. Eventually, Adam went back to work. I stayed home to take care of all 3 kids. That's when things started to get really hard. Caring for 2 newborns and a toddler was exhausting. I barely slept. I was either changing diapers, feeding the babies, or trying to keep Laura entertained. Our house was full of love, but it was also full of noise, laundry, and tired parents. On top of that, we were struggling with money. We weren't broke, but things were tight. I had always wanted to give my children the best of everything: good clothes, healthy food, great education, but with only one income, it felt impossible. I had the ability to earn well. I had a solid job and a career with room to grow. But someone needed to stay home with the kids. The real issue was our income difference. Adam made around $50,000 a year, while I earned $200,000. From a practical point of view, it made sense for me to return to work and for him to stay home with the kids. I thought it was a simple solution and hoped we could talk it through calmly. One evening, after dinner, we went to check on the twins in their room. The babies were fast asleep. Laura had already gone to bed. 3 kids, Adam said, smiling. We only planned for 2, but I'm not complaining. They're adorable. They really are, I replied. Hey, I want to talk to you about something.
Sure, he said.
What's on your mind? I've been thinking about our future and our kids' future too. I know it might sound early, but I want to plan ahead. If we keep saving, we can help them with college and give them better opportunities. Adam nodded. You're right. If I continue working, I said, we'll have more savings. Plus, there's a good chance I'll get a raise in the next few years. That would be amazing, he agreed. But who's going to stay home with the kids? What if you stayed home? Asked gently. You're great with them. His face changed. Are you serious?
Yes.
It makes sense. I'm the man of the house, he said firmly. Just because you make more money doesn't mean you get to make all the decisions. I was shocked. Adam, can't you see this isn't about control? It's about what's best for all of us. But in that moment, I realized this conversation wasn't going to be easy. I decided to go back to work. I knew it was the right choice for our family, even if Adam didn't agree. But when I told him, his reaction shocked me. Seriously? I said. Is your ego really that weak? Just because you take care of the kids doesn't mean you're less of a man. I thought we were just having a serious talk. But Adam's face turned red with anger. I had never seen him look like that before. Without saying a word, he suddenly raised his hand and slapped me hard across the face. How dare you talk to me like that, he shouted. You're trying to act like you're the boss. Know your place. Just do what you're told and listen to me. Then he stormed out of the room, leaving me in shock. I stood there frozen, my cheek burning, my heart racing. I couldn't believe what had just happened. The man I married, the father of my children, had hit me. All the old memories came rushing back. I remembered the fear I felt as a child when my mom's husband, Frank, used to hurt us. I had promised myself I would never end up in that kind of situation again. Yet here I was. I'm not saying all men are the same, but this moment broke something inside me. It shattered my trust. It made me look at Adam in a way I never had before. I realized he was deeply insecure and that his idea of being a man meant having control, not showing love or respect. That thought made me feel both angry and afraid. I was scared. Scared of what he might do next if I upset him again. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed on the couch, thinking about what to do. My heart hurt, but my thoughts were clear. I knew I had to get out of this marriage, not just for me, but for my children too. They didn't deserve to grow up in a home filled with fear and shouting. Later that night, one of the twins began to cry. I checked the baby monitor to see what was going on. That's when it hit me. The baby monitor had been on during the fight. It had recorded everything. I had proof. As soon as I realized that, I saved the video from the monitor onto my computer. Watching it made my stomach turn, but it also gave me an idea. I now had something I could use to protect myself. I waited until morning. Adam and the kids were still asleep. I stepped into the other room and called the one person I trusted most, my dad. Good morning, Bunny, he said sleepily. You're calling early. Everything okay?
No, Dad, I said softly.
Something happened last night. I need your help. Are you safe? He asked quickly. What happened? Yes, for now, I replied. Adam slapped me. We had a fight. It got out of hand. There was silence on the line. Then I heard his voice, full of anger.
What?
He did what? Why didn't you call me right away? Tears filled my eyes. I needed time to think. But I'm ready now. I need to leave. I don't know what to do, Dad, I said with tears in my eyes. Sweetheart, he replied softly, remember what I've always told you. I'm here for you, no matter what. Anytime you need me, I'll be there. Well, this all happened in the twins' room. The baby monitor was on, and it recorded everything. Bingo, Dad said, sounding more serious now. That's our proof. We've got him. I know some people in law enforcement. Don't go anywhere. Just stay calm. Where is Adam now? He's still sleeping upstairs, I said quietly. Good, my dad replied. Send me that video right away. And get the kids ready. I'm coming to get you. I quickly woke up Laura and gently picked up the twins. My hands were shaking as I packed a bag with baby clothes, diapers, and a few of Laura's things. I forwarded the video to my dad and waited in the living room, nervous and anxious.
My heart was pounding.
Just 20 minutes later, there was loud, urgent knocking on the front door. It made me jump. As I walked toward it, I heard Adam walking down the stairs. Who's at the door? He asked, confused. Why are the babies down here? What's going on? Before I could answer, a voice shouted from outside, Open the door. It's the police. The police? Who called them? Adam said, now hurrying down the last steps. I opened the door. The first person to step inside was my dad. He walked straight up to me and gave me a tight hug. Thank God you're safe, he whispered. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Thank you for being here, Dad, I said, trying not to cry. Then a police officer stepped forward. Adam, he said firmly, you're under arrest for assaulting your wife. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be provided for you. Adam's face turned red. What? This is about last night? That was just a misunderstanding. The officer handcuffed him. Adam struggled and shouted, Get these off me. I swear, you'll pay for this. My dad stepped forward, his face full of anger. If you ever speak to my daughter like that again, I'll break your jaw. Consider yourself lucky the police got here before I did. Take him away, my dad told the officer. Later that day, my dad drove me and the kids to his house. Both Adam and I hired lawyers. There were many court hearings. During the trial, I found out Adam had a past. He had been in a bar fight years ago where the other person ended up in the hospital for a whole month. I never knew about it. The judge sentenced Adam to 4 months in jail. I filed for divorce, won full custody of the kids, and the court denied Adam any visitation rights. I had a lot to think about, but my dad offered me a new beginning. My dad looked at me with kind eyes and said, I'm retired now. If you'd like, the kids can stay here with me for a while until you figure things out. There's no pressure. Dad, that would mean so much to me, I said with a sigh of relief. I really need some time to get things sorted. He smiled and gently added, There's one more thing I want to tell you. I've met someone. Her name is Emma. She makes me really happy. I hope you won't mind, but I had already asked her to move in before all of this happened. I was going to tell you soon. I smiled back at him. Dad, that's wonderful. I'm happy for you. I don't mind at all. In fact, I'm glad you found someone who brings you joy.
Thank you, he said.
You can focus on returning to work, and Emma and I will help take care of the kids. That sounds perfect, I told him. Thank you for everything. 7 months have passed since the kids and I moved into my dad's house. So much has changed since that day. Adam was released from jail, but he never tried to reach out to me. He didn't call, didn't text, and didn't ask to see the kids. And honestly, I was glad. I didn't want him in our lives anymore. I went back to work and started picking up the pieces of my life. That's when I got to know Emma better. She's kind, warm, and full of wisdom. She has lived through a lot, and she always shares helpful advice. What surprised me most was how she gave me the kind of care and support I had never received from my own mother. Slowly, she started to fill that empty space in my heart. The kids are doing great. Laura has started preschool, and she loves it. She comes home every day with new songs, stories, and drawings. The twins are growing fast, learning to sit, crawl, and giggle at the smallest things. The house is always full of noise, laughter, and little messes, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Even though things are better, I still feel like I'm healing. What I went through with Adam left a scar. There are days when I feel strong, and other days when memories come back, and I feel unsure. But I remind myself that healing takes time. Right now, I'm just focusing on two things, my children and my work. I know I still have a long way to go, but being surrounded by love, especially from my dad, the kids, and even Emma, gives me strength. I may not have everything figured out yet, but I have hope. And that's enough for now. I know one step at a time, I'll find my way again.
The champagne flute slipped from my fingers and shattered against the kitchen tile, sending crystal shards across the floor like tiny daggers. "Oh my," Vivian said, not moving to help as I crouched down to collect the pieces. "Pregnancy makes us all so clumsy, doesn't it? Though I suppose there's plenty of time to admit things before the baby comes. My name is Iris, and I should have known right then that my baby shower was going to be a disaster." "What do you mean by that?" I asked, still on my hands and knees, blood beading where a shard had nicked my palm. Vivian smoothed her perfectly styled silver hair and adjusted the pearl necklace that probably cost more than my car. "Oh, nothing specific, dear. Just that pregnancy has a way of bringing out the truth in people. Eventually." The way she said eventually made my skin crawl. I stood up, cradling the broken glass in my cupped hands, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything." She smiled that cold smile I'd grown to hate over the past 4 years of marriage to her son. "I'm simply saying that secrets have a way of coming out, especially when there's a baby involved. People talk, you know. They wonder about timing, about circumstances." Before I could respond, Solstice burst through the kitchen door carrying an armload of pink and gold balloons. "Iris, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for—" She stopped short, taking in the scene. The broken glass in my hands, Vivian's satisfied smirk, my pale face. "What's going on?" "Just a little accident," Vivian said sweetly. "Iris was telling me how excited she is for everyone to finally meet the father today." The words hit me like a slap. Solstice's eyes widened, and I saw her jaw clench. She'd been my best friend since college, and she knew exactly what Vivian was doing. "Well," Solstice said, her voice dangerously calm, "I'm sure everyone's excited to celebrate Iris and Braxton's miracle baby. After everything they've been through." Vivian's smile faltered for just a second. "Of course, though miracles do come in many forms, don't they?" I dumped the glass shards into the trash with more force than necessary. "Where's Braxton?" "Setting up the gift table with his father," Vivian replied. "Such a devoted husband, always so eager to please." She paused, letting that sink in. "I do hope he's prepared for today. Sometimes these family gatherings can be revealing." Solstice stepped closer to me, her presence a shield against Vivian's poison. "The guests are starting to arrive. Maybe we should focus on celebrating instead of whatever this is." "This is just a mother-in-law getting to know her daughter-in-law better," Vivian said, but her eyes were ice cold. "After all, we're going to be family for a very long time. Aren't we, Iris?" The question hung in the air like a threat. I wanted to scream, to tell her exactly what I thought of her passive-aggressive games, and her precious son who never stood up to her. Instead, I forced a smile. "Of course we are." "Wonderful." Vivian clapped her hands together. "Now, I should go check on the decorations. I want everything to be perfect for today's revelations." She glided out of the kitchen, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and malice. Solstice immediately grabbed my shoulders. "What the hell was that about?" I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Through the kitchen window, I could see guests arriving on the lawn. My sister Sydney was directing people toward the gift table, her dark hair catching the sunlight. Jorge was setting up his camera equipment, probably getting ready to capture what Vivian clearly hoped would be my humiliation. "Iris, talk to me." "She knows," I whispered. "Knows what?" I looked at my best friend, this woman who'd held my hand through every doctor's appointment, every negative pregnancy test, every crushing disappointment. She'd been there when the fertility specialist delivered the news that changed everything. She'd watched me make the hardest decision of my life. She knows about Braxton. Solstice's face went white. How could she possibly? I don't know, but she does. I pressed my hand to my swollen belly, feeling the baby kick as if sensing my distress. And she's planning something. Through the kitchen door, I could hear Vivian's laugh ringing out across the yard, bright and sharp as the broken glass I'd just thrown away. Smile, everyone. This is going to be such a beautiful memory. Jorge's camera clicked rapidly as I forced my face into what I hoped looked like joy. Vivian had positioned herself right next to me on the white wicker love seat, her arm draped possessively around my shoulders like we were the best of friends. "Isn't she just glowing?" Vivian announced to the crowd of 30-something women scattered across the backyard. 7 months along and absolutely radiant, though I do think she's carrying rather high, don't you, Margaret? Margaret, one of Vivian's country club friends, tilted her head like she was examining a painting. "Oh yes, definitely high. My grandmother always said that meant—" "It means nothing," Solstice interrupted, appearing at my elbow with a plate of mini quiches. "Old wives' tales are just that. Tales." Vivian's laugh tinkled like wind chimes. "Of course, dear. Though sometimes the old wives knew more than we give them credit for." I caught Sydney's eye across the yard. She was standing near the beverage table, her arms crossed, watching Vivian with the same expression she'd worn when we were kids, and someone was picking on me at school. Ready to fight. "Where's Braxton?" asked my cousin Emma, looking around. "I haven't seen him since we got here." "Oh, he's around somewhere," Vivian waved dismissively. "You know how men are at these things, probably hiding in the garage with Robert, talking about sports or cars or whatever it is they discuss when they want to avoid baby talk." "Actually," Eloise said quietly from her spot on the porch steps, "he's been in the kitchen for the past 20 minutes, just standing there." All eyes turned to Braxton's younger sister. She looked uncomfortable, picking at the hem of her sundress. Unlike her mother, Eloise had always been kind to me, though she rarely spoke up when Vivian was holding court. "Standing there doing what?" Solstice asked. Eloise shrugged. "Just staring out the window. Dad tried to talk to him, but he just kept saying he needed a minute." "Pre-daddy jitters," Vivian said with another laugh, but I caught the sharp look she shot toward the house. "Perfectly normal, though some men handle the pressure better than others." "What pressure?" Emma asked. "It's a baby shower, not a board meeting." "Oh, you know." Vivian's voice took on that syrupy tone that made my teeth ache. "The pressure of expectations, of living up to certain standards, of proving yourself worthy of the family name." Margaret nodded sagely. "My Harold was the same way, worried he wouldn't measure up as a father. Course, that was back when men actually worried about such things." "Times have certainly changed," Vivian agreed. "These days it seems like anyone can become a father, regardless. The conversation felt like walking through a minefield. Every word Vivian spoke seemed loaded with hidden meaning, and I could see some of the guests starting to pick up on the tension. "I think I'll go check on him," I said, starting to stand. "Oh no, sweetie, you stay put." Vivian pressed me back down with surprising strength. "This is your day. Let the men sort themselves out. Besides, we haven't even gotten to the games yet." "Games?" I asked weakly. "I've prepared something special," Vivian's eyes glittered. "A little guessing game about the baby. When it was conceived, what it might look like, who it might take after. You know, the usual fun." Solstice stepped closer. "Maybe we should just stick to opening presents." "Nonsense! Games make everything more memorable." Vivian clapped her hands. "Jorge, make sure you get pictures of everything. I want to capture every moment of this special day." Jorge nodded, but I noticed he kept glancing toward the house, probably wondering where the father-to-be had disappeared to. "Eloise, dear," Vivian called to her daughter, "why don't you go get your brother? Tell him it's time to join the celebration. After all, this is his big day too." Eloise hesitated. "Mum, maybe we should just go get him." Vivian's voice carried a steel edge that made everyone fall silent. Eloise stood up reluctantly and headed toward the house, As she passed my chair, she leaned down and whispered, "I'm sorry." "Sorry for what?" I asked, but she was already walking away. "Now then," Vivian turned back to the group with renewed energy. "While we're waiting for the guest of honour, why don't we start with a little game I like to call Guess the Truth? Everyone gets to share what they think they know about our little miracle baby here." The blood drained from my face. Sydney started moving toward us, her expression murderous, but Vivian was already pulling out a stack of index cards. "I've prepared some questions that I think will be absolutely fascinating to explore. Actually, let's skip the games and move straight to toasts." Robert's voice cut through the tension as he emerged from the house, Braxton trailing behind him like a scolded child. Vivian's smile tightened. "But Robert, I had such fun activities planned." "Toasts," he repeated firmly, giving his wife a look I'd never seen before. "That's what people do at celebrations. They toast the happy couple." Braxton finally made eye contact with me, and I could see the panic written all over his face. His hands were shaking as he grabbed a beer from the cooler. "Of course." Vivian recovered quickly, tucking her index cards into her purse. "How thoughtful of you, dear. Though I do think my games would have been more illuminating." Eloise appeared with a tray of champagne glasses, distributing them to the guests. When she got to me, she hesitated. "Just sparkling cider for the mama-to-be," she said softly, handing me a glass filled with golden liquid. "How considerate," Vivian said, accepting her champagne. "Though I suppose we should all be careful about what we're drinking today. Wouldn't want anyone to say something they might regret." The threat was barely veiled. I watched as guests began to shift uncomfortably, sensing the undercurrents they couldn't quite identify. "I'll go first," Sydney announced, raising her glass. She'd positioned herself directly across from Vivian, and her voice carried across the yard. "To my sister Iris, who's the strongest woman I know. She's been through hell and back to get this baby, and anyone who tries to diminish that can go straight to—" "Sydney," I warned. "Can go straight to the store and buy some class," she finished, never taking her eyes off Vivian. A few people chuckled nervously. Vivian's smile never wavered. "How sweet," she said. "Family loyalty is so important, isn't it? Though sometimes loyalty can blind us to certain realities." "What realities?" Solstice stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Oh, nothing specific." Vivian waved her hand airily. "Just that sometimes the people we love most are the ones keeping the biggest secrets from us." The yard fell silent, except for the sound of ice clinking in glasses. Jorge had stopped taking pictures and was watching the scene unfold with obvious concern. "Mum," Eloise said quietly, "maybe we should just—" "I'd like to make a toast," Vivian announced, rising to her feet with theatrical flair. "If I may." No one answered, but she continued anyway, raising her champagne glass high. "To my daughter-in-law Iris," she began, her voice carrying that false sweetness that made my skin crawl. "Who has brought such excitement to our family? Such mystery, such intrigue." Braxton was staring at the ground, his knuckles white around his beer bottle. "When Braxton first brought Iris home," Vivian continued, "I knew she was special, different, the kind of woman who would do absolutely anything to get what she wanted." "Vivian," Robert warned, but she ignored him. "And look how it's all worked out. After years of trying, suddenly, miraculously, a baby, just when it seemed like it might never happen." She paused, letting her words sink in. "It's amazing what modern medicine can accomplish these days, isn't it?" My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure everyone could hear it. "Of course." Vivian's voice grew louder, more confident. "We're all just so eager to finally meet the father." The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Several guests gasped. Margaret's champagne glass slipped from her fingers. Emma's mouth fell open. I looked at Braxton, waiting for him to say something, anything, to defend me, to defend us, to tell his mother to stop. Instead, he looked down at his shoes and said nothing. The silence stretched on, broken only by the sound of someone's phone buzzing and a dog barking in the distance. Every eye in the yard was on me, waiting for my response. "Vivian," Robert said again, his voice harder now. "That's enough?" "Is it?" she asked innocently. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Aren't you all curious about the timing, about how suddenly everything worked out after years of difficulties? She was looking directly at me now, her eyes glittering with malicious satisfaction. Some truths, she said, taking a sip of her champagne, just won't stay hidden forever. That's when I stood up, my chair scraping against the patio stones, and walked toward the house, not to run away, not to hide, to get my laptop. "Iris," Solstice called after me. "Where are you going?" I didn't answer. I had something to show them, something that would wipe that smug smile off Vivian's face forever. Behind me, I heard her laugh, bright and victorious. "Don't worry, everyone. I'm sure she just needs a moment to collect herself." My hands trembled as I opened my laptop on the kitchen counter. The screen flickered to life, and there it was. The folder I'd labelled medical records, the folder Braxton had begged me to delete a dozen times. "Iris, what are you doing?" I spun around to find Eloise standing in the doorway, her face pale. "Getting the truth," I said, clicking through the files. "Please don't." She stepped closer, wringing her hands. "Whatever Mum said out there, she didn't mean it. She gets carried away sometimes." "Carried away?" I laughed, but there was no humour in it. "She just accused me of cheating on your brother in front of 30 people. She didn't say that exactly. She said everyone was eager to meet the father. What do you think that means, Eloise?" Eloise's eyes filled with tears. "I know what it means, but if you do this, if you show them, it'll destroy him." "And what about me?" I asked, finding the file I needed. "What about what this is doing to me?" Through the kitchen window, I could see the guests huddled in small groups, whispering. Vivian was holding court near the gift table, probably spinning her web of implications even tighter. "He loves you," Eloise said desperately. "Braxton really loves you. He's weak when it comes to Mum. He always has been. Then maybe it's time he learned to be strong." Footsteps echoed in the hallway, and Braxton appeared, his face flushed and panicked. "Iris, please come back outside. Everyone's asking questions and Mum's getting more worked up and—" He stopped when he saw the laptop. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done years ago." "No." He rushed forward, reaching for the computer. "You can't. We agreed." "You agreed," I snapped, pulling the laptop away from him. "I went along with it because I thought you'd eventually find your backbone. I was wrong." "Iris, please." His voice cracked. "If you show them that document, everyone will know. Everyone will know I can't. That I'm not what, Braxton? Not man enough? Not fertile enough? Not brave enough to stand up to your mother?" Eloise gasped. "Oh God, it's true, isn't it? The rumours about you two having problems. Mum wasn't just being cruel. She actually knows." Braxton's face crumpled. "How could she know? We never told anyone except who?" I demanded. "The insurance company," he whispered. "For the fertility treatments. But that's confidential, they can't—" "Margaret works for the insurance company," Eloise said quietly. "She processes claims. Mom and Margaret have been friends for 20 years. The pieces clicked into place. Margaret's knowing looks, Vivian's confidence, the way she'd been building up to this moment all afternoon. "She's known all along," I said. "She's known about your infertility, about the donor, about everything. And she's been waiting for the perfect moment to humiliate me." "Iris, I'm sorry." Braxton reached for me again. "I'm so sorry. I should have defended you out there. I should have told her to stop, but you didn't." I closed the laptop and tucked it under my arm. "You never do." "Where are you going?" Eloise asked. "Back outside, to finish what your mother started?" "Iris, wait." Braxton grabbed my wrist. "If you do this, there's no going back. Everyone will know. My co-workers, my friends, everyone in town. They'll all know I couldn't get my own wife pregnant." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not the man I'd fallen in love with, but a scared little boy who'd never learned to stand up for himself or anyone else. "And what about me, Braxton? What about the fact that everyone out there thinks I cheated on you? What about my reputation? My dignity?" "That's different." "How is it different?" He opened his mouth, then closed it, unable to find an answer. "Exactly." I pulled free from his grip. "It's different because I'm not your mother's son. I'm just the woman who had the audacity to marry into her perfect family." I walked toward the door, but Eloise stepped in front of me. "Please," she said. "There has to be another way. Can't you just ignore her? Let it blow over?" "Let it blow over?" I stared at her in disbelief. "Your mother just publicly questioned my fidelity at my own baby shower, in front of my family, my friends, my co-workers, and you want me to let it blow over? She'll deny it tomorrow. Say she was misunderstood." "The damage is already done, Eloise. The only question now is whether I'm going to let her get away with it." I pushed past her and headed for the back door, my laptop clutched against my chest like armour. Behind me, I heard Braxton whisper, "God help us all." The conversations died the moment I stepped back onto the patio, laptop in hand. 30 pairs of eyes tracked my movement as I walked across the yard, my heels clicking against the stone path. "There she is!" Vivian called out cheerfully, as if nothing had happened. "We were just wondering if you were feeling all right, dear. Pregnancy can be so overwhelming." "I'm fine," I said, setting my laptop down on the gift table next to the projector Jorge had set up for the slideshow of baby photos we'd planned. "What's that for?" Margaret asked, eyeing the computer nervously. "Just something I wanted to share with everyone," I replied, opening the laptop and connecting the HDMI cable. Vivian's smile faltered slightly. "Oh, how lovely. More baby pictures. Though I thought Jorge was handling the photography today." "Not pictures," I said, powering up the projector. "Documents." The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Several guests exchanged worried glances. Sydney moved closer, positioning herself where she could see both me and Vivian. "Documents?" Robert asked, his voice tight. "What kind of documents?" "The kind that tell the truth," I said, navigating to the folder on my desktop. "Iris." Braxton appeared beside me, his face ashen. "Please, think about what you're doing." "I have thought about it." I looked up at him, then at the crowd of people watching us. "For 3 years, I've thought about it. Every time your mother made a snide comment, every time she questioned my worthiness, every time she implied I wasn't good enough for this family." "That's not," Vivian started. "Every time," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "She made me feel like I had to prove myself, like I had to earn my place, like I was some kind of fraud." "Honey, you're being dramatic," Vivian said, but her voice had lost its confident edge. "I never said any of those things." "You didn't have to say them. You implied them. You whispered them. You made sure everyone around you understood exactly what you thought of me." Solstice stepped forward. "Iris, whatever you're about to do, I'm with you." "So am I," Sydney added, crossing her arms and glaring at Vivian. "This is ridiculous." Vivian laughed, but it sounded forced. "All this drama over a simple toast. I was just being playful." "Playful?" Emma spoke up from the back of the crowd. "You basically accused her of cheating." "I did no such thing." "You said we were all eager to meet the father," Margaret said quietly. "What else could that mean?" Vivian's face flushed red. I meant we were excited about the baby, about meeting the baby. You're all twisting my words." "Are we?" I asked, my finger hovering over the mouse. The projector hummed to life, casting a bright white rectangle on the portable screen Jorge had set up. "Iris, don't," Braxton pleaded. "Please, we can work this out privately. We don't need to air our business in front of everyone." "Your mother didn't seem to think privacy was important when she was airing her suspicions in front of everyone." "I wasn't airing anything," Vivian snapped, her composure finally cracking. "I was making conversation." "Conversation?" Solstice laughed harshly. "You were being cruel." "I was being honest. Someone needs to ask the hard questions around here." The crowd stirred uneasily. Jorge had stopped taking pictures and was watching the scene unfold with obvious discomfort. "What hard questions?" Robert demanded, turning to face his wife. "What are you talking about, Vivian?" "Oh, don't act like you don't know," she shot back. "Don't act like you haven't wondered about the timing, about how convenient it all was." "Convenient?" I asked. "Years of trying, years of disappointment, and then suddenly, miraculously, you're pregnant, right when it looked like Braxton might never give us grandchildren." The accusation hung in the air like poison gas. Several guests gasped. Emma's hand flew to her mouth. "Mum, stop," Eloise said, tears streaming down her face. "Please just stop." "Stop what? Stop asking questions. Stop wanting to protect my son." "Protect him from what?" Sydney stepped forward, her voice dangerous. "From his wife. From the mother of his child." "From making a fool of himself," Vivian exploded. "From being taken advantage of by someone who would do anything, to get what she wanted." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the birds seemed to have stopped singing. I looked around at the faces staring back at me. Some shocked, some sympathetic, some hungry for drama. Then I looked at Braxton, who was standing there like a statue, saying nothing, doing nothing, protecting nothing. "You want the truth?" I asked, my voice carrying across the yard. "You want to know about timing and convenience and miracles?" I clicked the mouse, and the first document appeared on the screen. Vivian's mouth fell open when she saw the doctor's signature at the bottom. The medical report filled the screen in stark black and white. At the top, in bold letters, "Male fertility assessment, Braxton Gibson." Below that, a series of clinical terms and numbers that painted a devastating picture. Sperm count, less than 1 million per milliliter. Normal range, 15-200 million. Motility, 5%. Normal range, 40% or higher. Morphology, 2% normal forms. Normal range, 4% or higher. At the bottom, in Dr. Harrison's unmistakable handwriting, patient presents with severe oligoasthenoteratozoospermia. Natural conception probability, less than 1%. Recommend immediate consultation for donor insemination or adoption. The silence was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop on the grass. "Oh my God," Margaret whispered, her hand covering her mouth. "Is that—" Emma started, then stopped. "That's a fertility report," Jorge said quietly, lowering his camera. "Braxton's fertility report." All eyes turned to Braxton, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. His face had gone completely white, and his hands were shaking so badly he had to set down his beer. "Braxton?" Robert's voice was barely audible. "Son?" "I can explain," Braxton stammered. "It doesn't mean—" "It means," I said, my voice cutting through his stammering, "that your son is infertile. Severely infertile. Has been for years." Vivian was staring at the screen like it was written in a foreign language. This can't be right. There must be some mistake." "No mistake," I said, clicking to the next page. 3 different tests, same results every time. The second document showed the same devastating numbers, dated 6 months after the first. Then a third, dated a year later. "But the baby—" Vivian's voice was barely a whisper now. "If Braxton can't, then how—" "Donor insemination," Solstice said clearly. "It's a common procedure for couples dealing with male infertility." "Donor?" Margaret's voice cracked. "You mean—" "I mean," I said, looking directly at Vivian, "that you've spent the last hour questioning the paternity of a baby that was conceived through a medical procedure, a baby that your son desperately wanted, a baby that we went through hell to conceive." Vivian's face cycled through a dozen emotions: shock, confusion, embarrassment, and finally, desperate anger. "You're lying," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "This is fake. You made this up to embarrass me." "Mum," Eloise said softly, "look at the doctor's signature. Look at the letterhead. This is real." "It's not real." Vivian's voice rose to a shriek. "She's trying to make me look bad. She's trying to turn everyone against me." "You did that yourself," Sydney said coldly. "I was protecting my family." Vivian spun around, addressing the crowd. "I was asking legitimate questions. Any mother would do the same." "Any mother would support her son," Robert said quietly. "Any mother would trust her daughter-in-law." "Trust her?" Vivian laughed hysterically. "She's been lying to us for months, pretending it was natural, pretending it was a miracle." "We never pretended anything," I said. "We just didn't think our private medical information was anyone else's business." "Private? You made it public the moment you got pregnant. You made it everyone's business." "No," Jorge said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You made it everyone's business. About 5 minutes ago." He held up his phone, and I could see he'd been recording. On the small screen, Vivienne's voice played back clearly. "We're all just so eager to finally meet the father." "You recorded that?" Vivienne's face went pale. "I record everything at events," Jorge said. "It's my job, and that..." He gestured to his phone. "That sounded like an accusation to me." "Play it again," Emma said. Jorge rewound the recording. Vivienne's voice filled the yard again, dripping with false sweetness and barely concealed malice. "Of course, we're all just so eager to finally meet the father." The implication was unmistakable. Several guests shook their heads in disgust. "I didn't mean..." Vivienne started. "Yes, you did," I said. "You meant exactly what everyone heard. You wanted to humiliate me. You wanted to plant seeds of doubt about my fidelity. You wanted to make me look like a cheater and a liar." "That's not..." "The only liar here," I continued, "is you. You've been lying about supporting this pregnancy. You've been lying about accepting me into this family. You've been lying about being happy for us." Vivienne looked around desperately, searching for allies, but found only shocked faces and disappointed stares. "I was protecting my son," she said weakly. "From what?" Robert asked. "From happiness? From having the family he always wanted? From being made a fool of." "The only fool here," Solstice said, "is the woman who just destroyed her relationship with her son and daughter-in-law in front of 30 witnesses." "Turn it off," Braxton said suddenly, his voice hoarse. "Please, just turn it off." I looked at him. This man I'd married, this man who'd let his mother humiliate me in front of everyone we knew. "Turn it off?" "The projector, the documents, all of it. Please." "Now you want me to stop?" I laughed, but there was no humour in it. "Where was this concern when your mother was implying I was a cheater?" "I'm sorry," he said, and tears were streaming down his face now. "I'm so sorry. I should have stopped her. I should have defended you. But you didn't." "I know. I was scared. I was embarrassed. I was..." "You were a coward," Sydney said bluntly. Several guests started gathering their purses and gifts, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama unfolding before them. But just as many stayed, transfixed by the spectacle. "Don't you dare call my son a coward!" Vivienne snapped, finding her voice again. "He's been through enough. This whole situation has been traumatic for him." "Traumatic for him?" I stared at her in disbelief. "What about traumatic for me? What about the woman who's been enduring your passive-aggressive comments for 4 years? What about the woman who just got accused of adultery at her own baby shower?" "I never said adultery." "You didn't have to," Emma called out from the crowd. "We all heard what you meant." "That's right," Margaret said quietly. "Vivienne, what you said was cruel. There's no other way to interpret it." Vivienne whirled on her friend. This is your fault. You told me about the insurance claims, about the fertility treatments." "I never told you to use that information to hurt anyone," Margaret shot back. "I mentioned it in confidence, and you twisted it into something ugly." "Ladies," Robert said, stepping between them. "This has gone far enough." "Has it?" Eloise stood up from where she'd been sitting, her face streaked with tears. "Has it really gone far enough, Dad? Because I don't think it has." Everyone turned to look at Braxton's sister. She was shaking, but her voice was steady. "I'm tired of pretending," she said. "I'm tired of walking on eggshells around Mom. I'm tired of watching her tear people down and then acting like she's the victim." "Eloise," Vivienne warned. "No, Mum, I'm done. Do you know what you've done today? Do you have any idea?" "I was protecting..." "You were being cruel." Eloise's voice cracked. "You humiliated Iris in front of everyone. You embarrassed Braxton. You made our entire family look toxic and dysfunctional." "We are not dysfunctional. Look around." Eloise gestured to the chaos surrounding them. "Half the guests have left. The other half are recording this on their phones. Jorge's got everything on camera. By tomorrow, everyone in town will know what happened here." "That's not my fault." "It's entirely your fault." Eloise was crying now, but she kept talking. "You couldn't just be happy for them. You couldn't just accept that they found a way to have the baby they wanted. You had to make it about you. You had to be the centre of attention. I am the grandmother." "You're a bully." The words exploded out of Eloise. "You've always been a bully. You bullied Dad into submission years ago. You tried to bully Braxton into breaking up with Iris, and when that didn't work, You decided to bully Iris instead. Robert was staring at his daughter like he'd never seen her before. Eloise. It's true, Dad, and you know it. You've watched her do this for years, we all have, and we've all been too scared to call her out on it. I have never bullied anyone, Vivian said, but her voice was shaking now. Really? Eloise pulled out her phone. Because I've got about 50 text messages from you over the past month, all questioning whether Iris was really pregnant, whether the timing was suspicious, whether we should look into things before the baby came. Those were private conversations. Just like Iris and Braxton's medical information was supposed to be private. The crowd murmured agreement. Vivian looked around desperately, but found no support. I think, I said quietly, closing my laptop, that I've said everything I needed to say. I tucked the computer under my arm and started walking toward the house. Solstice and Sydney immediately flanked me. Where are you going? Braxton called after me. Home, I said without turning around. This is your home. I stopped and looked back at him. No, Braxton. This was never my home. Your mother made sure of that. Iris, please, we can work this out. We can fix this. Can we? Are you going to stand up to her? Are you going to tell her that what she did today was unforgivable? Are you going to choose your wife and child over your mother's approval? He opened his mouth, then closed it, unable to answer. That's what I thought. I walked into the house, leaving behind the wreckage of what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. Behind me, I could hear Vivian's voice, high and desperate. This is all her fault. She's the one who ruined everything. But no one was listening to her anymore. The doorbell rang at 7 a.m, 3 weeks after the baby shower from hell. I was staying at Sydney's apartment, and she answered it before I could even get out of bed. Absolutely not, I heard her say through the thin walls. She doesn't want to see you. Please, Sydney, just 5 minutes. Braxton's voice was hoarse, desperate. I pulled on my robe and waddled to the living room, my belly now so large I could barely see my feet. It's okay, I told Sydney, who was blocking the doorway like a bouncer. Let him in. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing the same clothes he'd had on at the shower. In his hands, he clutched a manila envelope. You look awful, I said, settling into Sydney's oversized armchair. I feel awful. He sat down across from me, the envelope balanced on his knees. Iris, I need to tell you something. About what happened after you left. I don't really care what happened after I left. Eloise moved out. That got my attention. What? She packed her bags that night and went to stay with our cousin in Portland. She told Mum she was done enabling her behaviour. Used that exact word. Enabling. Sydney poured herself coffee and leaned against the kitchen counter, clearly planning to stay for this conversation. And? I prompted. And Dad asked Mum to leave too. I blinked. Robert kicked Vivian out? Temporarily. He said he needed space to think about their marriage, about whether he wanted to spend the rest of his life married to someone who could be so cruel to family. Where is she staying? Margaret's. Except Margaret's not really speaking to her either after what happened. Turns out half the country club saw Jorge's video. Jorge posted the video? Braxton shook his head. Emma did. She posted it on Facebook with a caption about standing up to bullies. It got shared about 200 times before Vivian made her take it down. Sydney snorted. Too late by then, I bet. Way too late. Mum's been asked to step down from the charity board. The garden club uninvited her from their annual luncheon. Even her book club is giving her the cold shoulder. Good, I said flatly. Braxton looked up at me, surprised by my lack of sympathy. Iris, she's my mother. She's suffering. She's experiencing consequences. There's a difference. He was quiet for a long moment, turning the envelope over in his hands. You're right. That's what Dr. Martinez said too. Who's Dr. Martinez? My therapist. I started seeing her the day after the shower. He looked up at me. I know it's too little, too late, but I'm trying to understand why I let this happen, why I never stood up for you. And what did she tell you? That I've been so afraid of losing my mother's approval that I was willing to sacrifice my wife's dignity to keep it. That I'm a people pleaser who's never learned to set boundaries. That I've been emotionally abusive through my inaction. The words hung in the air between us. Sydney raised her eyebrows, but said nothing. She also said, Braxton continued, that if I wanted any chance of saving my marriage, I needed to make a choice. Really make it, not just say it. What choice? He held up the envelope. I wrote Mum a letter, told her exactly what I thought about what she did to you, told her that her behaviour was unacceptable and that if she ever wanted a relationship with me or our child, she needed to get serious help, professional help. And I told her that if she couldn't do that, if she couldn't genuinely change, then she wouldn't be part of our lives. No visits, no phone calls, no relationship with her grandchild. I stared at him. You gave your mother an ultimatum. I chose my family, my real family, you and the baby. He leaned forward. Iris, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I failed you in the worst possible way, but I'm asking, begging for a chance to prove that I can be the husband you deserve. Sydney cleared her throat. What did Vivian say when she got the letter? She called me crying, saying I was being manipulated by Iris, that I was choosing an outsider over my own blood. Braxton's jaw tightened. So I hung up on her, and I haven't answered her calls since. That must have been hard, I said quietly. It was the easiest thing I've ever done, because for the first time in my life, I knew I was doing the right thing. The baby kicked hard against my ribs, as if responding to the tension in the room. I rubbed my belly absently. Iris, Braxton said, I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. I'm not asking you to come home today. I'm just asking for a chance to earn back your trust, to prove that I can be the partner you need. I looked at this man I'd married, this man who'd finally found his spine at 34 years old. Too late to save our marriage, maybe, but not too late to save our family. We'll start with counselling, I said finally, together. And you keep seeing Dr. Martinez. Hope flickered in his eyes. Does that mean? It means we'll see. One day at a time. Sydney smiled and poured another cup of coffee. Well, this is more interesting than my usual Tuesday morning. Braxton laughed, actually laughed for the first time in weeks. Thank you, Iris. I won't let you down again. You better not, I said, but I was almost smiling too. Because next time, I won't just embarrass your mother at a party. I'll divorce you and take half of everything. Deal, he said immediately. Outside, I could hear the neighbourhood coming to life. Kids walking to school, dogs barking, normal people living normal lives. Maybe we could have that too, eventually. Maybe we could build something real from the ashes of what Vivian had tried to destroy. The baby kicked again, and I pressed Braxton's hand to my belly so he could feel it too. Our child, I said firmly, will never doubt that both parents are fighting for them. Never, he agreed, and for the first time in months I believed him.
Hey everyone, my name is Lori, and I'm a 29-year-old fitness trainer. My life has not always been smooth, and I've had to go through many ups and downs to get to where I am today. But right now, I'm smiling from ear to ear. I'm holding the keys to my brand new black car. It's a sedan I've been dreaming about for years. And now it's finally mine. This car didn't just fall into my lap. I had to work really hard for it. I picked up extra training sessions, stayed late many nights, and saved every dollar I could. But standing here, looking at my shiny new car, I know it was all worth it. Right after one of my training sessions at the gym, one of my regular clients, Helen, comes up to me. Her eyes go wide with excitement. Wow, Lori, is that your new car? She asks with a big smile. I'm still grinning as I nod.
Yep. Picked it up just yesterday.
Took a lot of saving and hard work, but I finally got it. Helen gives me a high five. That's amazing. You're such an inspiration. You always work so hard and never give up on your goals. Her kind words really mean a lot to me. I feel proud, happy, and motivated. But just as I'm enjoying the moment, my phone buzzes. It's a message from my mom. Megan, we need to talk about your sister's situation. Family dinner tonight. No excuses. I let out a sigh. My good mood starts to fade. It's not that I don't love my family, I do. But things between us are complicated. My mom can be very controlling, always trying to get her way. My dad usually just goes along with whatever she says. And my younger sister, Kayla, has always acted like the world owes her something. Later that evening, I drive to my parents' house. The moment I walk through the door, I feel the tension. My mom looks at me and says in a sarcastic tone, "Well, look who decided to show up. Miss Independent." She smiles, but there's a sharp edge to her voice. "Nice of you to grace us with your presence, Nat." I give a small smile and sit down at the dinner table. As always, it doesn't take long before the conversation turns to money. Kayla starts talking about how she just lost her job. "It's just so unfair," she says, frowning. "They didn't even give me a chance to explain." She leaves out the part where she was always late and barely did her work. I know the truth because I've heard the stories before, and because I've helped her out more times than I can count. I've given her money, covered for her, and supported her through things she never even thanked me for. Then, right on cue, my mom jumps in. "Well, maybe your sister can help you out, Kayla. Lori's doing so well with her training business. I'm sure she can spare a little money." I sit there in silence, feeling angry inside. It seems like no matter how hard I work or how much I accomplish, I'm always expected to carry the weight for everyone else. This moment reminds me why I worked so hard in the first place, to build a life of my own, away from all this pressure and guilt. But sometimes, no matter how far you go, your past finds a way to pull you back in. I take a deep breath and say, "I'm sorry, but the answer is no. I've worked hard for everything I have, and right now I need to focus on keeping myself stable financially." The whole dinner table goes quiet. My dad shifts in his seat and clears his throat. My mom looks at me sharply, her eyes narrowing. "That's very selfish of you, Lori," she says. "Family should always come first." I stay calm and reply, "It's not selfish to set boundaries, Mom. I love all of you, but I can't keep fixing everyone's problems. You and Kayla need to learn how to handle money better." No one says anything after that, and the rest of dinner is tense. I feel hurt, but also proud of myself for standing up for what I believe in. A few weeks go by. One day, I'm at the gym, finishing a session with a client. My phone starts buzzing again and again. It's Kayla. At first, I ignore the calls, thinking she'll stop. But after 7 missed calls, I finally answer. "What is it, Kayla?" I ask, trying hard not to sound annoyed. "They fired me," she cries. "I lost my job." I pause. "I'm sorry to hear that. What happened?" "Oh, you know how it is," she says in an angry tone. "Same old corporate nonsense. They said I was unreliable or whatever."
Can you believe that?
I stay quiet for a moment, not sure what to say. Then she adds, "Anyway, I need to borrow your car so I can go look for a new job." I nearly drop my phone. "Wait, what?"
No, Kayla.
"I need my car for work. How do you expect me to train my clients without it?" She laughs in a mean way. "Come on, Lori. You can take an Uber or something. This is more important." I take another deep breath. "I'm sorry, Kayla, but no. I worked hard for my car, and I need it every day. I can't lend it out." Before I can say anything else, she hangs up. I know this isn't the end of it. Sure enough, later that week, I get a text from my mom. "Family dinner tonight. No excuses." I already know what it's about. I get in my car and drive to my parents' house, not feeling great about it. As soon as I walk through the door, I feel the heavy mood. My mom's eyes are sharp and cold.
My dad won't even look at me.
Kayla is sitting at the table, smirking like she already knows what's coming. "Sit down, Lori," my mom says. Her voice sounds cold and serious. "We need to talk about your selfish behavior."
I sit, surprised.
"Excuse me?" My dad speaks next. "Your sister needs help, kiddo. We think it would be the right thing for you to let her use your car." I look at both of them, shocked. "You think I should just hand over my car? The one I worked so hard to buy and need every day for my job?" Mom nods.
Yes.
"That's what family does." I shake my head.
No.
What family should do is support each other without taking advantage. I love you all, but I won't keep giving while getting nothing back. The room is silent again. But this time I don't feel bad. I feel strong. I sit there completely shocked. "Are you serious right now?" I ask. "I already told Kayla no. I need my car for work." Mom suddenly slams her hand on the table. Don't you care about your family at all? Kayla really needs this. And what about what I need? I shoot back. I worked hard for that car. I saved for it, I paid for it, and now I use it every single day to do my job. Kayla jumps in, her voice full of sarcasm. Oh, please, Lori. You're just showing off. You don't really need that car. You're just being selfish. That's it. I've had enough. I stand up, and my chair makes a loud scraping sound across the floor. I'm not being selfish. I say firmly. I'm setting boundaries. I love you all, but I'm not going to let anyone walk all over me anymore. Then something happens that I never thought would. My dad stands up too, his face red with anger. Before I can even think or move, his hand hits my cheek hard. The room goes completely quiet. I don't say a word. I just raise my hand to touch my face, which is burning from the slap. I feel frozen. I can't believe what just happened. After that, I leave without another word. In the days that follow, I try to focus on my work and stay calm. But my phone starts buzzing constantly. Message after message pours in from cousins, aunts, uncles, and even old friends. It's clear that my mom and Kayla have been telling people their side of the story. How could you treat your family like this, Lori? I always thought you were a kind person. What happened? Your poor sister just needed help, and you turned your back on her? Reading these messages hurts. I feel sad, angry, and confused. All I did was say no. How did that make me the bad guy? Then my phone rings. It's my cousin Nathan. He's someone I've always been close to. I answer, my voice a bit shaky. Hey, Lori, he says gently. I heard what happened. Are you okay? I take a deep breath. Not really, Nathan. I just can't believe how fast everyone turned against me. It's like they don't even want to hear my side.
He sighs.
I'm really sorry.
This isn't fair to you.
But for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Don't let them twist things around and make you feel guilty. You have every right to stand up for yourself. His words help. I don't feel so alone. But I also know I need more support to deal with everything I'm feeling. So I decide to start therapy. I find a therapist named Dr. Catherine and begin going to weekly sessions. At first, it's hard.
I don't even know what to say.
But slowly, week by week, things start to make more sense. I begin to understand why I feel so guilty even when I'm doing the right thing. I learn that it's okay to say no. I learn that love doesn't mean letting people hurt you. One afternoon after a session, I walk out of Dr. Catherine's office feeling a little lighter. The pain is still there, but now I have tools to deal with it. For the first time in a long while, I feel proud, not for saying yes, but for finally saying no. And that's a step toward healing. I walk out of therapy feeling a little stronger than I did before. I'm starting to understand my feelings better and learning how to protect myself. But just as I step outside, my phone buzzes. It's a call from my bank. Hello, Miss Lori, the voice says. We've noticed some strange activity on your account. There have been attempts to open new credit cards in your name. My heart sinks. I stop walking. My mind races back to all the times my parents had access to my personal information, my social security number, bank info, and other private details. Oh no, I whisper, feeling sick. Right away, I decide to hire someone who can help. I find a private investigator named Jerry and ask him to look into what's going on. A week later, he calls me with the results. I'm really sorry, Lori, he says gently. But your parents have been using your name to open credit cards and take out loans. Everything points back to them. I feel like I've been punched in the stomach.
How could they do this to me?
They're my family. Families are supposed to protect each other, not steal and lie. Just when I think things can't get worse, my phone rings again. It's Kayla. She sounds panicked and scared. Lori, you have to help me, she cries. I'm in trouble at work. They say I stole money. They're accusing me of embezzlement. I sigh, already expecting drama. Kayla, what did you do? It's not what it looks like, she says quickly. I just borrowed some money. I was going to pay it back. Please, you have to help me. Before I can even respond, my mom calls too. Lori, your sister needs help, she says. You need to give her the money so she can pay back what she took. I feel anger rise inside me.
No.
Absolutely not. This is Kayla's problem, not mine. She made the mess, and she has to fix it. Mom's voice turns loud. How dare you? After everything we've done for you? I laugh bitterly. Oh, you mean like stealing my identity and opening credit cards in my name? Yeah, I know all about that. There's a long pause. Then my dad gets on the phone. Now, kiddo, let's not make any quick decisions. We're still family. We can work this out. I shake my head even though he can't see me. No, we can't. If you don't leave me alone, I'm going to the police. I have proof, and I won't stay quiet. Then my mom's voice changes. It becomes sweet, almost fake. Lori, sweetie, think about what you're saying. You wouldn't want to tear this family apart, would you? I end the call without saying another word. I feel exhausted but also clear about what I have to do. I've had enough. The next day, my best friend Joyce comes over. I tell her everything about the bank, the credit cards, Kayla, and the threats. This is insane, she says, shaking her head. We need to keep you safe. She comes up with a plan. We set up hidden cameras around my apartment and even in my car. If my parents or Kayla try anything, we'll have it all on tape. No more surprises. No more secrets. For the first time in a long while, I feel like I'm taking back control of my life. I don't know what will happen next, but I do know one thing. I'm not going to let anyone take advantage of me ever again. She said that as she gave me a warm hug. I felt a little better. A few days later, while I was at work, my phone buzzed with a security alert. The camera we had set up near my car had picked up movement. I opened the live video feed, and what I saw made my heart stop. It was my parents. They were standing near my car, trying to break into it. We'll take it while she's at work, I heard my dad say clearly. She won't be able to prove anything, my mom replied. Then she added, it's for Kayla. Nady owes us this much. I stared at the screen in shock. My own parents. Trying to steal my car. Saying I owed them. I couldn't believe it. Joyce, my best friend, was sitting next to me. She was watching it too. Her hand gently rested on my shoulder. Lori, you have to call the police. I nodded, my hands shaking as I dialed 911. As I waited for the police to arrive, I felt a strange mix of emotions, sadness, anger, and even a little relief. This was the moment I had been afraid of for so long. But now it was finally happening, and there was no going back. Still, for the first time in a long while, I felt powerful. I was standing up for myself. I whispered quietly, they can't hurt me anymore, as I watched the police car arrive through the camera feed. Word spread fast about what my parents and Kayla had done. People who once stood by them started to back away. Their circle of friends and supporters grew smaller. I heard from others that they were now struggling with money since they could no longer use me or anyone else to get what they wanted. About a month later, I got a phone call from a detective. Miss Lori, he said, I'm calling to let you know that your sister Kayla has been arrested for embezzlement. I felt a quick, sharp pain in my chest. It still hurt to hear that, even after everything she had done. But deep down, I knew it was the right thing. I spoke softly. Thank you for telling me. The detective continued, also, we're moving forward with charges against your parents for identity theft. They could be facing jail time. After I hung up, I sat in silence. It was over, but at the same time, I knew it was really just the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I threw myself into work. I focused all my energy on growing my fitness business. I started offering online workout classes, which quickly became popular. Soon after, I opened a small studio of my own. My client list grew, and I stayed busy. For the first time, I was doing something just for me. No guilt. No drama. Just honest, hard work. One evening, after locking up the studio, a new client walked over to me. He looked friendly and confident. Hi, he said. Lori, right? I'm Eric. I just started coming to your classes. You're really good at what you do. I smiled, feeling proud. Thank you, Eric. That means a lot. As we chatted, I felt something new, peace. The past had been painful, but I had finally built a life that was mine. I was strong. I was free, and I was just getting started. I just wanted to say thank you, Eric told me one evening after class. Your classes have really changed my life. I smiled, feeling a warm happiness in my heart. That means a lot, Eric. Thank you for saying that. As time went on, I realized something beautiful was happening. I was building a new kind of family. The people who came to my fitness classes weren't just clients anymore. They were becoming friends. And those friends slowly became like family to me. We started spending time together outside the gym. We had potluck dinners where everyone brought a dish to share. We held game nights full of laughter and fun. On weekends, we went hiking and enjoyed the fresh air and sunshine. It was simple, but it brought me so much joy. One night, after one of our little gatherings, I was cleaning up when Joyce came over and pulled me aside. "Lori," she said with a smile, "I'm so proud of you. Just look at everything you've done." I nodded, feeling a deep calm settle inside me. "It wasn't easy," I said quietly, "but I finally feel free." And I meant it. I had gone through a lot. The lies, the hurt, the betrayal from the people who were supposed to love me most.
But I didn't let it break me.
I stood up for myself. I learned to say no. I walked away from the pain and created something better. I learned that family isn't just about blood. Real family is about love, support, respect, and kindness. It's about the people who are there for you, who accept you as you are, and who don't try to control or use you. Family are the people who lift you up when life gets hard and cheer for you when you succeed. And now my story is coming to an end. But before we close this chapter, I want to ask you something. If you were in my shoes, if your parents and sibling lied to you, stole from you, and tried to tear you down, what would you have done? Would you have pressed charges like I did? Would you have stood your ground and protected yourself? Or would you have given them one last chance to make things right? There's no easy answer. Every person and every situation is different. But I know this much. You deserve peace. You deserve safety. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions. And most of all, you deserve to live a life that makes you feel proud and free. So what would you have done? My name is Angela. I'm 32 years old and work as a senior manager at a tech company in Los Angeles. My job needs full focus and strong willpower. I've been building these skills for over 11 years since I finished college. I didn't grow up rich. I always believed that if I wanted people to respect me, I had to work twice as hard. I spent many nights studying with little sleep in a small rented room. I got a full scholarship, but it wasn't easy. Sometimes I had to choose between buying books or eating dinner. But all that hard work paid off. I got a strong start in my career, while others were still trying to figure things out. At work, my boss trusts me with important projects. My coworkers respect me because I make clear decisions and don't give up easily. My team calls me Steel Angela. Not because I'm cold, but because I stay calm, fair, and don't let emotions get in the way. Still, under that strong outside, I'm just a woman who wants love, care, and someone to hold my hand at the end of a long day. I've had a few relationships before, but they didn't last. Partly because I was always busy, and partly because some men didn't like that I made more money or had a higher job title. One even said, "You make me feel like less of a man." I laughed it off, but that night I sat in front of the mirror for a long time, wondering what I was doing wrong. Then one cold spring evening, it was raining in Los Angeles. My close friend Kathleen asked me to come to her husband's birthday party. I didn't feel like going. I was tired from too many meetings, and I don't like big crowds. But Kathleen begged me, "Please, just for an hour."
You're my bridesmaid.
Don't say no like that. I said yes, even though I didn't really want to go. That's where I met Paul. He wasn't the kind of man who grabs everyone's attention. He didn't try to show off or talk a lot. But his smile was kind and real, and for some reason it made me feel calm. "You're Angela, right?" he asked as he walked over. I was standing alone with a glass of wine, staring off into the distance. I nodded. "How did you know?" I asked. He smiled and said, "Kathleen told me if I saw a beautiful woman standing alone looking like she wishes she stayed home, that would be you." I burst out laughing. I hadn't laughed like that in weeks. We ended up talking all night. It was easy and natural. He worked in HR consulting, was the same age as me, and had also gone through a few breakups. We talked about life, shared random stories, and later exchanged numbers. I didn't think too much about it at the time. It just felt nice. After that, Paul kept in touch. He sent good morning texts, checked in after my long work meetings, and sent funny dog videos because he knew I had a golden retriever when I was a kid. I started to look forward to hearing from him. 3 months later, he told me he wanted something serious. I don't believe in fairy tales, but when Paul said, "I don't care if you're more successful, make more money, or come home late. I just want to know if you're happy with me," my heart felt something real. I said yes. 1 year later, we got married. I thought I had finally found happiness, but I was wrong, very wrong. Our wedding was simple and sweet. It took place in a small garden just north of Los Angeles, the same spot where we had our first date in the light March rain. It wasn't fancy or like a movie, but it was enough for me. The man beside me had stood by me through hard times. Paul's parents, Kevin and Emma, surprised me with how kind they were. Emma gave me a handmade shawl and said, "Just a little gift for a daughter-in-law who works in an office. It can get chilly." Kevin used to joke with Paul in front of me, saying, "The boy's lucky to marry such a smart and strong woman." I laughed a lot at those family dinners and even started to think maybe I really was lucky. After the wedding, Paul moved into one 2-bedroom condo in the city. It was near my job, close to a park, and only 18 minutes from the office. At first, married life was calm. We shared chores, cooked together on weekends, and every night before bed, Paul would touch my forehead and whisper, "Good night, my wife." One October evening, I came home from a client meeting in San Francisco. I sat down on the couch and took off my heels. My feet were sore from the long day. That's when Paul said, slowly, "There's something I want to talk to you about. It's about my parents." I looked at him. "What's going on?" He said, "Their health isn't great. My dad has high blood pressure and my mom is starting to forget things. I'm really worried." I nodded. "I understand. But we don't live very close to them." Paul paused for a moment, then said something that made me stop. "I want us to move in with them, or at least turn their old house into a duplex." I looked up. "Do you mean live with them full-time, or just nearby?" "We'd make it a duplex," he said. "Their house is big, has a backyard and a strong foundation. If we fix it up, we can have our own space while staying close enough to take care of them." I already spoke with a friend in construction. It would cost around $100,000. I let out a deep breath. I wasn't being selfish. I knew it was normal to take care of family. But the thought of giving up our private life to live right next to my in-laws, even with a wall between us, made me uncomfortable. Paul noticed. "I know what you're thinking," he said, "but I promise no one expects you to act like a traditional daughter-in-law. My parents are easygoing. They really like you." I didn't say anything right away. I asked for some time to think. For the next week, the idea stayed in my mind. It was like a small pebble in my shoe, not painful, but always there. Finally, one Sunday night after dinner with his parents, I said yes. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Angela. I know this isn't easy for you." I smiled, but inside, I felt something I couldn't explain. Something soft and a little uneasy. A few weeks later, Paul and I started working with the builders. He already had a plan. The house would have 2 separate living areas, connected by a hallway with a door that could lock. From the outside, it would look like one big house. But inside, it would be 2 homes. Paul was excited. He picked tiles, wall colors, and garden ideas. But I started to feel like I was walking into something I didn't fully choose. I was part of the conversations, but the big decisions like taking out a loan or picking materials mostly came from Paul and his parents. While I was going over the budget sheet, I asked, "Babe, how are we splitting the $110,000 cost between both sides?" Paul looked a bit surprised. "What do you mean?" he asked. "I just want to know how much we're paying and how much your parents are paying," I said. He stayed quiet. A long pause. Then he spoke softly. "I was hoping you could pay for it for now. My parents are having some money problems." I sat up straight. "Wait, are you saying I'm paying for everything?" He held my hand. Not everything. Just helping for now. I'll pay you back slowly. I didn't say anything more, but something shifted inside me. A small door opened in my mind, and behind it, there wasn't light. I didn't know it then, but that door would lead to a truth that would break my idea of what family means. One weekend evening, the house plans were almost done, and the workers had already started on the foundation. I decided to sit down with Paul and go over the money in detail. Until then, I had paid most of the early costs, design fees, deposits, and materials. I'm not someone who watches every dollar, but I don't like being left in the dark either. Paul, can you show me the full budget and the breakdown? I asked. I need to know what I've paid and what's left. He looked at me and rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, I'll check, but Angela, there's something I should tell you first. I looked up. My chest tightened, like I'd walked into a cold draft. My parents, they're actually in debt, he said slowly. Not a small amount. It's kind of big. How much? I asked. About $150,000. I almost dropped the glass in my hand. Say that again? I asked, trying to stay calm. $150,000. My dad put money into a coffee shop business, but it didn't work out. Then he took another loan to cover the first one, and it just kept going. I stared at him. And you're telling me this now? When the house is almost finished. Paul looked away. I didn't mean to hide it. I just thought I could fix it. But now everything is crashing down. If we don't do something, they could lose the house. I sat there, silent. My mind was racing. I had already spent almost $95,000 on the renovations. And now this? I'm already in deep, I said quietly. What do you want me to do? Paul reached out and took my hand. I know it's a lot to ask, Paul said. But can you help my parents? You're the only one who can save them right now. I promise I'll pay you back. I gave a small smile, not because I was happy, but because in that moment I realized something. I wasn't just his wife anymore. I was being treated like the solution to his family's money problems. But I still loved Paul, or at least I thought I did, so I said yes. I took $80,000 from my savings and sent it to cover most of his parents' debt. I arranged to pay the rest in monthly payments of $15,000. I kept records and receipts for every payment. Emma called me in tears to thank me. Kevin even emailed me a handwritten letter saying I was a blessing. This family is lucky to have you, he wrote. I used to believe that. But slowly, things started to feel wrong. Paul stopped helping with money. The I'll pay you back never happened. Every time I asked, he had a new excuse. His paycheck was late, or his money was tied up in a project. One time, I asked to see his pay stub so we could adjust our budget. He snapped. You don't trust me? Why does it always come back to money, Angela? I didn't argue. I was tired, but I kept paying. A year later, after my 14th payment, Emma called, sounding cheerful. You're amazing. Just one more year, and we'll be free. Honestly, if it weren't for you, we'd be out on the street. How much is left? I asked. About $35,000, sweetie. You really are this family's savior. I hung up and just stood there, frozen. I had paid nearly $130,000 in 14 months. No contract. No legal agreement. Just trust. Then one evening, I came home early from work. My meeting was canceled. As I walked toward the living room, I heard laughter through the door. Kevin's voice. Gotta hand it to Paul. He found a wife who not only pays the bills but knows her place. Emma added, the debt's almost gone. The house is renovated. That girl's a diamond in the rough. Then Paul, with a laugh and a hint of sarcasm. Yeah, but once this is all done, maybe I should cut her loose. Sooner or later, she's going to start asking questions. I stood there, holding my purse, heart racing so loud I couldn't hear anything else. But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't a life I had built. It was a setup, planned long before I ever said I do. From that night on, I wasn't the same Angela, the one who smiled at dinner or believed that love could fix anything. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I stayed quiet, like still water, hiding a storm underneath. I kept paying the bills on time. No reminders needed. Every month, $15,000 went from my savings and paycheck to cover the debt. On top of that, renovation bills kept coming in. Tile work, painting, new windows for the shared area. All of it landed on me. Paul never changed. He still smiled every evening, still asked what I wanted for dinner, still hugged me from behind while I cooked. Sometimes he would rest his chin on my shoulder and whisper, "Thank you, Angela. I know you're doing so much for this family." I would nod, but inside I felt nothing. One Tuesday afternoon, while Paul watched football with Kevin, I opened my laptop. I started looking for any proof of income Paul had ever shown me. That's when it hit me he never had. Not once since we got married had I seen a real paycheck. The last time I asked about it, he got annoyed. He set his coffee cup down and said, "Why do you think I'm hiding something? You already know I don't make much. Are you accusing me now?" I didn't say it out loud, but I wasn't just guessing anymore. I knew something was off. But with no proof, I stayed silent. I kept paying. I kept handling everything. By then, I had already put more than $120,000 into the house and his family. That was almost all the money I had saved over the last 7 years. And yet, somehow, Paul always had money for other things. Limited edition sneakers, the newest smartphone, weekend fishing trips with brand new gear. I didn't know where the money came from, but it wasn't from me. One day, I gently said, "Could you be more open about our money? I think we should plan things together. Right now, I'm paying for everything." Paul paused for a moment and then said, "You're doing it because you're good at it, not because I asked. If it's too much, then stop. No one's forcing you." I gave him a small, dry smile. The kind of smile a woman gives when she realizes she's being used. Not angry, not loud, just a quiet look from someone who isn't naive anymore. I didn't bring it up again. I also stopped sharing account details or how much I had saved. But I began keeping records. Every payment, every invoice, every bank transfer, every message Paul sent asking for help just one more time. I didn't know what I'd use it all for, but I knew, deep down, that someday I would. I didn't know exactly what I'd use all those records for, but I knew one day I would. Paul's parents still acted like they adored me. They still called me their little angel and brought me homemade apple pie on the weekends, like I wasn't the one paying off all their debt by myself. They didn't know I had overheard that conversation that night. They didn't know their words. "She earns money like water, and once the house is done, it'll be easy to cut her loose," replayed in my head every time I opened my wallet. Paul still thought I trusted him. And I let him believe that. Because I had learned something. A strong woman doesn't need to shout to show her strength. Sometimes, being silent is how you prepare for your next move. I didn't know exactly when this would end, but I was sure of one thing. The next time I spent money, it wouldn't be to pay their debt. It would be to buy back my freedom. One rainy Thursday afternoon, just a normal Los Angeles day, I got out of a meeting with some Italian business partners earlier than planned. I had 2 extra hours, so I decided to stop by my favorite bakery to pick up some chestnut cookies. I figured I'd cook dinner for Paul, something I hadn't done in a while because of work. As I turned onto our street, I saw Kevin's silver SUV already parked in the garage. That was strange. They usually only came over on Sundays. I opened the front door quietly and left the hallway light off. Raindrops dripped from my hair, but I didn't even notice. I heard laughter and voices coming from the living room. "That girl really is a gold mine," said Paul. Emma's voice followed, sharp and cold. I remember the first time I met Angela. I couldn't believe she'd be so easy to reel in. Kevin chuckled. Then Paul spoke again casually like it was nothing. "It's simple. Just act like you care. Say a few sweet things. Women like her, strong on the outside, but deep down, they just want love. Am I right?" "Totally," said a woman's voice I didn't recognize. "I'm still surprised she fell for it so easily," Paul said. "This house is almost hers now. Most of the debt's paid. Just drag it out a few more months and we're done." I froze. The air felt heavy, like someone had filled the whole room with something thick and sticky. I don't know how long I stood there. All I knew was my hand was gripping my bag, so tight my knuckles had turned white. Then, without thinking, I turned around and walked out like I had never even come home. That night, I texted Paul and said I had to stay at a hotel because of international clients visiting. He replied with one short message. Stay safe. Love you. I stared at it. I didn't reply. Something inside me broke. But from those broken pieces, I started building a plan. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't act like I was in some dramatic movie scene. Instead, I hit record. The next time I came home, I had a small recorder hidden in my coat pocket. I acted tired, like I was too busy with work to notice anything strange. That night, they introduced a new woman at dinner. She was called a business associate. I smiled. I poured wine. I made small talk. But inside, I was watching, listening, saving every word, every fake smile, every look. Quietly, I also put together a full record of our money. Every dollar I had spent in our 3 years of marriage, renovation costs, debt payments, living expenses, was listed in a private file. I sent a copy to my lawyer with a note. Do nothing. Just keep this. Then I began transferring the house into my name. At first, I had suggested we share ownership just to be fair. But now, I had someone help transfer Paul's part to me, using the excuse of lowering property taxes. He signed without thinking twice. A week later, I pretended to be the same old Angela again. The tired wife. Still cooking.
Still asking about his day.
Still loving. But really, I was waiting for the perfect time to show everything. They had no idea I had already filed for divorce. No idea I had quietly bought the rest of the debt under special terms, making me their new lender. No idea that the kind-hearted woman they planned to use and toss aside now held all the power. And when the time came to show them the truth, I wouldn't scream. I'd simply open the door and ask them to leave one by one. Not with anger, but with proof. Proof built from their own lies. I used to think I was a smart, level-headed woman. I believed I couldn't be hurt easily. But when your heart is slowly played with, you learn the worst pain doesn't come from big blows. It comes from small cuts, repeated quietly, day after day. I kept playing my part. The loving wife. The perfect daughter-in-law. I kept smiling when Paul hugged me from behind. I kept nodding when his mother called me the pride of the family. I even increased the monthly payments to help pay off their debt faster, just so they'd keep thinking I trusted them. They didn't know those were the last dollars I would ever give them. Not from love, but from a quiet anger, wrapped in calm. In the 19th month of making steady payments, I called the bank that held most of Kevin and Emma's debt. Since I was listed as the original guarantor, I offered to pay off the full remaining balance in one payment, in exchange for them transferring the debt to my name. They agreed without hesitation. From that moment on, I, Angela Parker, officially owned the debt they once owed the bank. 1 week later, I finished the paperwork to transfer full ownership of the newly renovated house, where the whole family now lived, into my name. Paul didn't ask questions when I told him it was for new state tax processing. He signed the papers with a small smile and a distracted look, not knowing what he had just done. I remember that moment clearly. One sentence kept repeating in my mind. Thank you, Paul. You just gave me the key to end all of this. I quietly started working with my lawyer to file for divorce in King, Los Angeles. Everything was handled in private, with no details shared. During that time, I collected all the proof I needed. Bank records, payment receipts, emails, and most importantly, the audio recording from the night I had heard their plan to throw me away. My lawyer, Nicole Trunfio, a sharp, calm woman in her 50s, looked at me after our first meeting and said, "If I were you, I wouldn't get angry. I'd wait. And when the time is right, I'd press the button. Right time, right target." I didn't say much, just gave her a small, cold smile. The night before everything came out, I cooked like usual. Paul's favorite, lasagna. A fresh salad for Emma. Lemon butter cake for Kevin. I even poured wine and raised a glass. To finally being almost done with the debt, I said. Paul smiled big, eyes full of joy. "I can't believe you did all this, Angela. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." I gently tapped my glass against his and looked him in the eyes. I think so too, Paul. Thank you for showing me who you really are so early on. He didn't get what I meant. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. The next morning, I woke up early and left the divorce papers on the kitchen counter. Beside them, I placed a copy of the official document showing I was now the legal owner of Kevin and Emma's debt. I also left a short note. Good luck dealing with your new lender. I don't plan to be generous. Then I walked out of that house for the last time. I moved into a small penthouse apartment I had quietly bought using profits from a private investment I'd been building for 4 years. It looked over East Los Angeles, where the sunrise lit up the water each morning. It reminded me that peace isn't something you wait for, it's something you take back for yourself. That afternoon, my lawyer sent formal notices to Paul and his parents. They had 3 options. Pay the full remaining debt within 30 days. Move out of the house immediately and hand over control. Face legal action for not following the terms. I didn't wait around to see their reactions. I already knew. Some relationships aren't meant to be saved. And letting go at the right time is always better than holding on to something that's already broken. The only thing I regretted was not realizing sooner that sometimes forgiveness isn't strength, it's just weakness, wearing a polite mask. I thought I had made a clean break. I thought I had the upper hand when I left the divorce papers and walked away in silence. But I forgot one thing. People who rely on others for everything will always fight back when they feel like they're losing control. Just 4 days after I filed for divorce, Paul texted me asking to meet and talk things out. I said no. I told him to speak through my lawyer. He didn't reply. I thought that was the end of it. That Tuesday morning, while I was getting ready for an investment seminar downtown, I got a call from my property manager, Mr. Timothy. His voice sounded urgent. "Angela, I'm sorry to bother you this early," he said. "But someone just changed the locks at the Lakeview property and said you don't own it anymore. I just got word that a woman moved in with Paul." I froze. Without wasting a second, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the house. The same house I paid for, renovated, and carefully designed myself. I picked out every tile, every light fixture, every detail. The gate had a new lock, but I still had the original spare key. And the house was legally mine. I had filed the ownership transfer with every local office the day it was completed. I rang the doorbell. Paul opened the door. He was wearing the white dress shirt I gave him for his birthday 3 years ago. But this time, he didn't meet me barefoot at the door like he used to. He stood there, calm and cold. "Angela," he said, "I think it's better if you go back to your new apartment. This isn't your house anymore." I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. Behind him, I saw a young blonde woman with loose curls walk out of the kitchen holding a glass of orange juice. She smiled at me like I was a stranger who didn't belong. "That's my new girlfriend," Paul said, like he was showing off a new watch. I stayed silent. "Oh, and one more thing," he added. "My parents think you could still live here if you agree to a few conditions." I raised an eyebrow. "Conditions?" "Yeah," he said. "You can stay, but you'll have to pay rent. And since the house is more full now, it'd be great if you could take care of the cleaning, laundry, and cooking." I laughed. A long, loud, real laugh. The kind that comes when something is just too ridiculous to believe. Paul stepped back slightly, clearly surprised. "You're telling me I have to pay rent and do chores in a house that legally belongs to me?" He shrugged. "Well, you kind of moved out. I just rearranged things a little." I pulled out my phone and called a number I knew by heart. "Hi, Nicole, it's me," I said when my lawyer picked up. "Get ready to file for trespassing, illegal entry, and violating property rights. Yes, against Paul and his entire family. Starting today." I looked Paul straight in the eyes. There was no kindness left in me. "You have 2 hours to pack your things and leave my house, with your girlfriend and your parents. If you're not out by then, the police will be here before lunch." His face turned pale. "You can't do this, Angela. We were married." "Were," I said clearly. "And you ended that." "But I thought you still loved me," he said. "You once told me that too," I replied. "But I've said a lot of things. What I never said was that I'm stupid." I turned and walked toward the gate, feeling lighter than I had in years, like I had just put down a 150-pound weight.
Paul didn't follow.
He knew it was over. And I knew this wasn't revenge. This was justice. In a world where women like me are often told we're too strong to be loved, this moment wasn't just a message to Paul. It was a message to anyone who ever thought independence meant weakness. For days after that day at the house, my lawyer, Nicole, sent Paul and his family a formal demand letter. It clearly stated 3 things. The Lakeview property was fully and legally in my name, listed in King Los Angeles records. They were living there without permission. If they didn't leave within 10 days, I would file a lawsuit to evict them. It also reminded them the remaining debt, over $80,000, hadn't been paid off. It had only been delayed through bank agreements. From that day forward, Kevin and Emma were fully responsible for it as the original borrowers. Nicole included everything: bank statements, signed contracts, debt transfer papers, and proof. Every detail was covered. That afternoon, Paul called me 6 times. I didn't answer. He finally texted, "I know you're angry, but we can fix this without turning it into a war." I replied with 1 sentence: "Let your lawyer talk to mine." Then, I filed a civil case against Paul and the woman I had seen in my kitchen for adultery and breaking marital ethics. In California, adultery doesn't always change the outcome of a divorce. But if it causes financial or emotional harm and there's proof, the guilty party can still be held accountable. I had everything: voice recordings, photos, texts, even a written statement from a delivery worker who had seen her entering and leaving while I was away. Nicole filed a compensation claim for $85,000. That included emotional damage, personal property loss, and legal fees. But I wasn't done yet. I also filed to get back the $70,000 I had paid during the renovation and debt repayments. I had proof, bank transfers, receipts, and even a handwritten IOU that Paul had begged me to sign when he first asked for help. Now, the truth was clear. What used to be a messy, hidden problem had become a complete picture. One filled with lies, betrayal, and fake smiles. Paul finally showed up at the first mediation meeting. He wasn't confident anymore. He looked tired, pale, and stressed. He looked at me and quietly said, "I know I messed up. But Angela, if you go through with this, I'll lose everything." I answered calmly, "You risked everything the moment you betrayed me. Losing it was your choice, not mine." His girlfriend didn't show up, but her lawyer sent a settlement offer. She was willing to pay part of the damages if her name stayed private in the court case. I accepted, not because I forgave her, but because I knew the most powerful message isn't loud. It's quiet. And I wasn't done yet. As for my ex-in-laws, after they got the demand letter, they called me in tears. They tried to act like they were the ones hurt. Kevin choked up and said, "Angela, you were once our daughter-in-law. Do you really want to tear this family apart?" I cut him off, my voice steady. "I'm not tearing anything apart. Your family just thought I wouldn't fight back. I'm simply taking what's mine." They went silent. I knew people like them, people who never admit they're wrong. For them, loss is the only lesson that sticks. But I wasn't waiting for them to change. I didn't need them. My life had already moved on. Now, I was in control, and no one would ever take that from me again. Paul and his side of the family were no longer part of my story. They were just background characters I had already removed from my life. I never thought I'd sell the house that once felt like home, the house I had put so much time, money, and emotion into. But now I understood. No matter how nice a house looks, it's still just walls if it's filled with lies and control. After renovations and a rise in the housing market, the Lakeview house was reappraised. I put it up for sale, and just 2 months later, a young couple made an offer, $210,000. Exactly what I had hoped for. They especially loved the layout, 2 separate spaces, and a big kitchen. I had redesigned the house from the ground up. After subtracting all the money I spent on renovations and personal costs, I walked away with a profit of over $50,000. It wasn't a huge amount considering all the stress and time it took, but it was enough to mark a new beginning. one without the weight of old memories. During the divorce process, the court approved my claim for alimony. Paul was ordered to pay $45,000 over 13 months. His girlfriend, even though she tried to downplay her part in everything, had to pay $160 to avoid being named in public court records. Kevin and Emma, facing legal pressure, repaid the $70,000 I had covered for them. Not because they wanted to, but because they didn't want to be sued for breaking their signed agreements. In total, I recovered over $180,000 from the house sale and legal settlements. But the most valuable thing I got wasn't money. After everything, I decided to take investing seriously. I used to think saving money was enough. Now I know that modern women need more than a paycheck. We need strong financial skills. I signed up for a personal finance course, hired an independent advisor, and learned how to read the market based on facts, not feelings. Little by little, the pain started to fade. I saw I didn't need anyone else to build a better life. I didn't need love to feel whole. One cool autumn afternoon, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, looking out at the Los Angeles waterfront. The sunset painted the sky in warm gold, and it hit me. I was living the life the old me once dreamed about, but never thought she deserved. I no longer talked to Paul. I didn't care if he was still with that woman. That chapter was closed. I didn't tear out the pages or pretend it never happened. I just left it where it belonged, the past. My parents, who once didn't understand why I chose someone like Paul, are closer to me than ever. They never said, "You were right," but when my mom visited my new home, the look in her eyes said it all. My dad, quiet as always, just patted my shoulder and said, "You're stronger than I ever thought." I smiled. I didn't need their words, I already knew. I'm not the same Angela anymore. I'm Angela, the woman people once thought was easy to use because she loved too much. But now I love myself more than anyone else ever could. I haven't shut the world out. I've just learned to be careful about who I let in, not out of fear, but because I've learned that not everyone who gets close to you is there to help. Some just want to take what they can. And if you ask me whether I regret loving Paul, I'll say no. Because without him, I wouldn't have learned where my limits are. I wouldn't have discovered how strong I can be when I finally let go. Most importantly, I wouldn't have realized that sometimes the thing we believe we can't live without is the very thing we need to walk away from. But I've lived through it. And now, I'm living better than ever. Angela's story is a strong reminder that love doesn't always give back loyalty. But learning to love with wisdom and learning to love yourself is what really matters. After the pain, she didn't just find justice. She became smarter, stronger, and more sure of who she is. She didn't let heartbreak break her. Instead, she used it to build the life she truly deserved. It's a reminder for all of us. Letting go at the right time is the first step toward real freedom. What do you think about Angela's journey? Did she make the right choice by standing up for herself?